is not in codes.
What? I'm standing there with a fucking microphone in my hand. Does this look like we're prepared?
Wait a minute. I found Michael Jackson's other glove.
Klaus, Fluffer, Klaus. No,
Wait. Call the police. There's nothing in here.
no,
I've been robbed.
no. You just been shortchanged. Oh,
I like that.
I'm supposed to be the straight man. I set him up. He knocks me out. What are we? Hi, it's a microphone. Yes, the UHF Series 1 UT1 belt pack transmitter from Samson. Lifelike sound, excellent reproduction.
And Vegemanic.
It slices. It does.
And a good nose for a mouse.
Also makes a great shaver. Well, all right. There's no light on. Oh, there it is.
We're picking up sound.
Where are we going? What are we doing?
Bobby wants to dice meat.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. Wait a minute. Hold on.
That's called Neverland.
With the other glove.
Who brought me?
You know, Michael Jackson's company bought pennies.
You know, that's liable to chew right through there.
What was that?
That's right.
Michael Jackson's industry bought pennies. J.C. Pennies.
Yeah?
Must have. I saw the other day an ad. A kid's underwear half off.
There we go.
Bobby, we did, I think, roughly 12 or 13 minutes last night. I feel cheated. I went back, reviewed the tape. Never once did you use the word armadillo during our whole interview.
So you never showed me your ass.
No one got more mileage out of the word armadillo.
World armadillo?
Yeah. Big armadillo.
It's easy for you. It's like your mouth is falling down the stairs.
Two hawks and an armadillo. He can work armadillo.
I've got a pocket here.
Yeah.
Kenny, put your hand in my pants like you usually do.
You're not.
I can just figure it out.
You've been sitting too long. You have cellulite.
Oh, wait. Here, hold on. Let me shake that out a little. Well, it's leather. I was sweating.
Jesse Jackson's family moved out of your ass.
Things gonna have to get a little bit better for my hand goes there again.
This won't work. I got things to clip it on and hit this.
Uh-oh. Audio.
Technical guy.
He's the technical guy?
Yeah.
We're in trouble. Columbia School of Broadcasting used him as a bad example.
Was that tech or fluff? Chris, you ready? Stand by. Knew he didn't want to do it for a reason. Never mind, he's a self-floater.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yes, we are picking
Since I put this in my pocket, but I have this clipped here. Let's see.
I have had sex with sensational Sherry. This is an ad. In the event that Viagra lasts more than 4 hours, consult a physician or Jim Barnett.
I was waiting for him to pan around the room and see who hadn't had sex with Sherry.
All those that's like Sherry, raise your hand. Klaus raises.
We're alive.
Klaus went.
You don't see anybody seeing it dripping, do you? No, we're fine.
We love you, Sherry. No, we do. You're wonderful. She was my first person I managed.
Yeah, well, you're right.
What? I'm home with it. To the people's out.
What?
Okay. Well, so that is all. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the scallops. Are y'all wanting to go somewhere or something? You got the room at the casino?
An hour ago.
Are we supposed to? Let's go upstairs and look at that stuff. Oh, Gabe, get out of the goddamn way. Make an edit, for God's sake. You don't want to see me walking across the kitchen. The hell? Look, she's hiding behind the door. This gorilla thing. Ooh, have we got more Sprite? I don't know. I think we do in there.
Check.
But now, hey, don't put the boxes in because they can spread bugs.
All right. Got it.
Of course, my advice for you is kill them, so that's why you don't know about that.
Oops. Did I? Okay, here we go. Oh! These are our maximum security cells. Now I'm serious. The rest of the ceiling is going to be posters and everything, and the wall's going to have stuff. So don't think it's finished yet.
Are we taping now? Yeah.
No, Gabe's holding the camera, son.
Let me show you this. This is where Willowbrook lives. This is where all the midgets stay. Oh no, they're voting. Right here is the very front library of Jim Cornette's house.
I had to have the latch put on because that's where the raccoon came in. Oh, I know, that's why I called the cops. The raccoon was this big. I'm telling you, it was as big as a small Cocker Spaniel, and it knocked this door open, knocked my Rock'em Sock'em robot sideways, made the rope sag, and so I had this put on there to keep the wildlife out.
We have to tell the people that we're at Jim Cornette's house.
That's right.
Ring of Honor.
Yeah, who's hosting this thing anyway?
You're hosting it.
I'm the host, but I'm the host. I can't be the host. How can the host be the
I'll be the
host?
host in the beginning.
You be the host for the
Gary
most.
Silken with Ring of Honor, and we have the privilege of being at Jim Cornette's home right here outside of Louisville, Kentucky, for another straight shooting series with Jim. And look, it's Bobby the Brain Heenan. I'll be damned, hanging out at Cornette's house. Wow.
Outside of Louisville is Tennessee. No, what a beautiful home he has here. And they're repoing it Thursday.
I've got it until Wednesday night at midnight.
So let's get this thing done quickly. We're up
So you can go to the casino.
That's when I was in the honeymoon.
But we are in the memorabilia room, which is still being worked on, of Jim's.
Which is still being unpacked and unshellacked.
And I'm going to shut up and get out of the way and let Bobby and Jim walk around and talk about some of these artifacts.
Well, let's start down here at the end at the good stuff and move
And
on.
believe me, great stuff. Great stuff this man has. Over 350 tapes of Moolah at the Waffle House.
Actually, 300 at the Waffle House, 50 more at the truck stop.
That's right.
Actually, we get to look at these posters later on. We'll get them out from underfoot. But, Bobby, we were talking about the Welches and the Fullers earlier. Atlanta, 1946, Herb Welch.
I was 2 years old.
And Herb, as you can see, was still 70. He was 70 for the last 50 years of his life. A collector's item, Vern Gagne with hair.
Boy, he must have a magic marker. How did you have the hair on him? He had that much hair since he was 7. Oh, look at this. This is one of my favorites. This is a belt Bobby Eaton gave to Jim Cornette. He was one of Nick Lewis's champions. It says nothing. There's nothing on the belt. It doesn't say who you're champion of. There's not a dollar sign or anything to do with it. There's a mold on the back.
There's mold on it. Yeah.
And it probably was, I'm sorry, it probably was Nick Lewis's shower curtain rod or something.
I think actually,
But that isn't, it's,
in some prehistoric era.
Was that from an actual territory?
Yes, this was one of Nick Lewis's Tennessee, but I think it was the Mid-America belt at one point, and actually before history, you could almost see that it says something, but I don't know what.
My name is Nick. We return this to the No Hotel in Nashville. You owe me $50.
And wait, here, a note signed, Daddy said sell, signed George. Oh,
Couldn't be him. He couldn't speak.
Here you go. Here's a collector's item for you. Wait a minute. Scaffold matches.
He couldn't speak.
Here you go. Here's a collector's item for you. Wait a minute. Scaffold matches. We talk about scaffold matches. Well, we're going to now. If I can find it.
What are these, newspaper ads?
These are newspaper ads from Louisville.
These are ads he ran yesterday in the Inquirer. Just waiting for him to mate. Of course these are newspaper ads.
Are you familiar with the concept of a newspaper?
Yeah, you put it in a birdcage.
Not you, him.
Oh.
Well, wait a minute. Wrong book. Hold on. Here we go. This is going to be the right one.
That's the way most promoters promote all their lives, right? With just ads in the paper.
The very first ever scaffold match, Jerry Jarrett and Don Green, August 15, 1971, Louisville, Kentucky. And if you notice, every match up and down the card had a manager. Carl and Kurt von Bronner with Saul Weingroff, Al Green, and Sir Clements. Sir Clements was the Greens manager, interns with Dr. Ken Ramey. And as a matter of fact, look at that tag team, Bobby. Wilbur Snyder and Robert Fuller against the Von Brauners.
Wow. Nobody wanted to get over.
In the opening match, Sherry Lee and Sarah Lee against Cora Combs and Barbara Dolento.
Winner got nothing. There's a reason it stays in town.
Now, because this was a super spectacular card which sold out the Louisville Gardens when it was known as the Convention Center, look at the incredibly high ticket prices. On this match only, first 3 rows, $10, ringside and terrace, 6, general admission, 4. Ridiculously high prices for those days when the regular prices were $4, $3.50, and $2.50. However, that was because it was a scaffold match.
I got a question.
Yes.
Cameraman, get your page over to this. Now, is this a relative of Bill with Sweet Daddy Watts?
Actually, this was the opposition. This was an outlaw promotion, Phil Golden's All-Star Wrestling, that was running Louisville against Nick Goulas at that time. And Sweet Daddy Watts was about a 5'6", 400-pound black guy that stuttered.
Okay. A knockoff from Sweet Daddy Suki.
Exactly.
Let me tell you something. When I was in Nashville working for Nick Goulas for 1 week in '65, there was a promoter named Jack Pfeffer. And Jack Pfeffer was horrible. He was, remember Fritz von Erich? Oh, he used guys called Fritz von Erich. Remember Bobo Brazil? Hobo Brazil.
Bruno San Martino.
Right, he used all names like Dick the Loser. Different things like that. Really, that's what he did. And he was just, nobody liked the guy, but when he was starting out, one of the guys worked for him.
I'm still trying to find that ad. I have one of Bobby's infrequent appearances in Louisville in here somewhere, but we couldn't remember the date. But these go back to '73. 31-man, 2-ring battle royal. And they say that the big cards were just invented. It's old as hills. Anyway, how about this one? Wait a minute. Hold on here. Starcade 83, the Flair for the Gold. Great American Bash 85, Starcade 85, Crockett Cup, all that good stuff.
I never liked that belt. I never liked the look of that belt.
Oh, the old NWA belt?
No, I like the old NWA belt, the Dory head and Fez head.
Oh.
No, the one in between. The black one.
The one in between.
Yes.
I bet it's right.
To me, that was the best looking belt.
We'll run across it. Look at here. Kowalski.
Before he started eating vegetables. Really, he's a vegetarian. Now he goes out, you know he finds a picnic? He finds a shady spot and he eats it. That's the truth.
Don Fargo when he was Jack Dalton. Oh, here we go. You just mentioned him, Bobby. Von Erich and Ernie Ladd. Mark Lewin and Bull Curry, Killer Carl Cox and Danny McShane.
I managed Ernie. I managed Cox. And I knew Marky and I met Bull a couple of times.
And these are all from Texas. Here's the Destroyer, Dick Byer. Destroyer and Cox.
I managed both of them. I managed him when he was Dr. X and the Destroyer. I managed him when he was sane.
You're older than you look.
Carl's a good name.
Destroyer comes to work for Watts 1 week because Mark Reagan, the kid that he trained from Buffalo, was breaking in, so he comes to work with him, and he opened a match, put him over 1 week. And we got 7, 8 matches on the cards. And Dundee says, okay, you guys go about 8 or 10. Dick looks at him, like, walks out. He always go out and make friends with the cops, right? So he'd make friends with the cops on the way out, and he'd do a strut to the ring. They went 19 minutes, 20-minute time limit, right? 19 minutes, 30 seconds. He comes back, and Dundee says, Jesus Christ. He says, all right, just cut it down next night. Next night, they go 18 minutes, 45 seconds. Finally, Dundee says, Dick, Jesus, we got 8 matches. We can't go so long. How can you have a match in less than 15, 20 minutes? You can't tell any kind of a story. And he's right. Yeah, so they had to let him go 20 minutes every night.
Just knocked out 2 matches. They didn't mean nothing anyway. So you get rid of 2 hookers. 42nd, 38th Street. You're done.
Okay, now do you know any of the guys on this cover? Luthez, Buddy Rogers, Ray Stevens, Dick the Bruiser, and Bob Ellis.
I worked with him. I managed him. I worked with him. I hated him. Simple. Best worker on the whole thing was probably Ray. And then him. He was good. Ellis was a hell of a guy. Pitiful human being.
Well, come to think of it, then we have...
Oh, let me see this.
Oh,
You know who that is?
who is
You
that?
know who that is?
That looks like Wilbur.
Right. That is Jay York. The mass terror in Indianapolis. You know why? They worked there. Him and Psycho Negro were tag partners. And what happened was they were ready for their big show against Bruiser, and I forget who it was. And the Coliseum exploded in Indianapolis on Halloween night. 1961, and killed like 75 people.
Jeez.
They had the ice show there, and underneath the stadium, propane exploded, and people were killed. And there was no place to run Indianapolis except an armory. But that's Jay York.
Oh, my God. What about Carpentier? Did you ever know Carpentier?
Oh, yeah. Eddie Carpentier. If you think about his name, is Ed Carpenter. He's a Polish guy from Montreal. Tremendous athletic ability. But if he didn't want to do that, he wouldn't. He was just a pain in the ass. Nice guy, but pain in the ass.
Now, wait a minute. We'll skip Bruiser.
I hope so.
There's the Grahams again.
There's Buddy.
Johnny Valentine and Buddy Rogers.
Probably who set the mark for everybody today. With blonde hair and strutting, and he was my idol. Him and the World Little book. Doesn't make sense to you, but you never hung around a Waffle House, have you?
As a matter of fact, this centerfold, these Wrestling Illustrateds were beautiful because not only did they have the color covers at the time, but also, from 1966, this was a big deal. They had the full color centerfolds, if I can find it.
Come back. Is that me?
Wait.
No.
Johnny Powers.
No, that's not me. No. I know Johnny. No.
You know what? This one's one of the ones with the centerfold missing. Of course.
What's your wife's name? We'll call her up. Stacey, you got that centerfold?
Yeah. No, she was in the centerfold. Wow. Well, anyway, they have nice full color centerfolds when they're not missing.
You know what Rogers used to do? He would go to the ring and he'd take a hand towel and he'd roll it up and put it in his trunks. So he washed his ring.
Why? Figure out. Look at here. From 1964, a picture of Moolah when she was under 60.
No. That's her taking her first shower since the World War II. How many people know that? Those aren't her legs. Those are great Ganyas. The greatest heel in the business. Right here. The Sheik. Is wrestling fake on a wrestling book.
What about this? From Detroit, the Body Press. Oboe and the Sheik.
No better heel was there ever.
This was, how long did their program run, Bobby? 35 years?
It had to be. Really.
Look at this one. This is a classic cover. How do you like it? San Martino and Jilly Rizzo. Frank Sinatra's manager. Or confidant, partner, whatever.
Real man. You know Bruno standing there? Jilly had a bar in New York, right across from the garden. And Bruno used to go there all the time. And why you wear a tux to a bar, I don't know. But Bruno was saying right there, the clam sauce can't be $1.50. And why you wear a tux to a bar, I don't know. But Bruno was saying right there, the clam sauce can't be $1.50. He's always worried about the price of stuff. That's okay. Bruno's a good guy.
Let's see. Rocca. Got a lot of Rocca around here.
Ain't big enough for him. Need a big book for this guy. You know, Rocca wasn't a big guy. Well, he was only about 5'11", about 2'5", 210. But he made up for it. He had a huge ability in the ring.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the largest, most expansive repertoires of holds and moves.
And
He was so tense whenever he was in the arena.
And there were times in the match he could really stick it to you if he wanted to.
Yeah, really stick it to you.
Yeah, no, he was a big guy in our business. Huge. His hands are sticky.
Oh, sorry, I put that.
Some people enjoy.
Now, is this poster, right? The R. Conner Stevens, I guess that's from San Francisco?
Yeah, Stockton. Yep. The San Francisco area, early 60s.
Mister used to be my neighbor. What a great human being, a nice man. Really was.
Oh, forgot about this. Does anybody know who this is?
He's a rugby boy from the Chongqing.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Anybody? No. Pipe up? Tiger Mask, the original.
Really?
Sayama.
Oh, wow.
Sammy Lee, when he went to England, they sent him to England, they sent him to Mexico to learn the different styles. And as a matter of fact, this is also pretty rare. It's an independent poster from England in the late 60s with Adrian Street and Bobby Barnes, the Hells Angels. That was how Adrian was first famous in...
And notice how tough these were. Check the cleavage. Excuse me.
Is that the bondsman again?
He's a little bruiser.
Bruiser heard what you said.
Homicide. Excuse me for a minute, it's my bail bondsman. Yes.
Size of Kingsport, Tennessee, they worked a program from 1958 to 1971 in the main events against each other, bringing different partners and etc. in, and drew that whole time. And when Whitey got killed in the car wreck, Whitey was a babyface and Ron was a heel, and Ron switched babyface to take Whitey's place in the match that he would have wrestled that Friday night in Knoxville, and it sold out again with Ron Wright taking Whitey Caldwell's place to fight his enemies because of Whitey's death. So they didn't actually get him on the same side until he died.
They were just based in this area only?
Oh yeah, they had full-time jobs at Kingsport, Knoxville, Johnson City, all East Tennessee, but they drew there for so many years, and 20 years after the fact, people were still going to the cemetery, fans, and putting flowers on Whitey Caldwell's grave in Kingsport. I mean, talking to his wife.
On Thursdays are so flowers.
Okay, well now wait a minute, we got to back up. We can't get ahead of ourselves here. We were going to shoot some of the Carolinas programs, Greensboro Coliseum. The talent was so deep, like this tag team tournament poster here.
What are the names there?
Jones and Steamboat, the Andersons, Flair and Valentine, Wahoo and Andre, the Briscoes, Tony Atlas, Bobo Brazil, Blackjack Mulligan, Stan Hansen. That was just a regular house show lineup for Greensboro in the 70s. And then that one over there, World Heavyweight title, Harley Race and Ricky Steamboat. U.S. title, Flair against Dusty, with Buddy Rogers as special referee, Ken Patera and Dino Bravo.
There's just something funny. In Denver, in the AWA days, there were only 5 matches on the card.
And that was the big show, right?
Because they went to pay the trains.
Yeah.
Fly from Minneapolis, but it worked. Every Thursday night, every Friday night, once a month, sold out. And Denver fans were the wildest. They had more noise than that in Rockford, Illinois. More so than the Garden or Chicago, any place. And we had 5 matches. So you don't have to give them 25 matches. You give them 5 quality matches.
Yeah.
It works.
The lineups, where you can see the lineups were so different because everything was publicized weeks ahead of time. The whole lineup, the cards, every match meant something except for the preliminaries, which obviously were there to, be the salad.
But here's a guy I never understood. The Stomper, Archie Goldie. Nice man. We're in Kansas City and Calgary.
Yeah. And
two places you can't make money. But Knoxville was there one time.
Yeah.
Tanaka told me that. And it was easy to...
All the Fullers had it going, and he had so much heat in Knoxville for the spot shows, they would just run him to the ring, and the babyface already be waiting on him. The babyface beat him up for 5 minutes, and he'd leave, would grab the belt, and be counted out. If they tried to put him over, or even let him be offensive on some of the Eastern Kentucky towns or whatever, the people would hit the ring.
No, I like that. He's a hell of a guy.
Great guy. And I don't know what shape he's in now, but I last saw him about
117.
Well, no, 5 years ago, he was still running. He would ride a bicycle like 12 miles each way to work and back, working for the sheriff's department, and he was
couldn't afford a car. Save your money, Archie.
Hey, here's a couple things. Oh, let's talk about Al Costello. We were talking about him earlier. Look at this.
One of the Kangaroos.
The original Kangaroos, Al Costello and Roy Heffernan, but it is a wall chart because since Al Costello was like the Chris Benoit of his day, he was a great technical wrestler. So they passed these out with he and Heffernan demonstrating different holes. That one looks like one you used to use at the air host in Chicago.
Well, but I had my back turned. And I was holding the drapes. It's a different move.
Look at that bridge.
Try to drive across that. I built a bridge once from Moore, but she wouldn't come across.
What do you know about Dick the Bruiser's deal with Alex Karras?
I'll tell you about that. The deal was the promoter was Jim Barnett, and they wanted to do a thing with Alex Karras and Dick the Bruiser. Bruiser was very hot in Detroit at that time, so the deal was set up where Bruiser was supposed to go into Alex Karras' bar and get into a fight with Alex Karras. Karras didn't want to do it, but he wanted to make he wanted to do the match, but he didn't want to do the angle. So Bruiser didn't want to do it because he was a day off. But Barnett had him go there. So he went there, and Karras never showed up. And Bruiser got pissed. And Karras had a TV over his bar, and the bartender said, whatever you do, don't touch the TV. It's Alex's. So he broke the TV. So they called the real police. They had like some police set up. They were going to pull him out, pull away. They had the real police come in. And they handcuffed Bruiser and they beat him up and everything. And he broke one cop's arm and hurt another cop's back. And he was sued. And they had the match at the Olympia in Detroit. Didn't draw a dime. And Bruiser always told me, he said, well, the people thought it'd be still out. They didn't care. Is what it was. Bubba Brazil used to tell me, there'd be nobody in the house sometimes, but guys would always make excuses. Well, there's visiting, the gas station's open until 9. We don't get paid. There's visiting hours at the hospital. And then Bubba would always say, and a lot of people just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. So that's what happened with Bruiser, nothing. That's what made Bruiser go against them in Detroit promotion because he lost so much money in the lawsuit, Barnett never backed him. So that's why he went against Barnett, who sold the Sheik and the whole thing. Lord Blair's and Gene.
This is from Honolulu, 1956. Ricky Dozan and whoever against Kaniski and Lord Blair's.
Yes. I love the Lord. The Lord's in a rest home now in Hawaii. He's counting fish.
He used to do all the World's Strongest Man competitions and everything they would film in Honolulu. He'd be kind of like the master of
He was also one of the guys that set up all the stuntmen for Gene Bell, for Magnum, the show Magnum, and Hawaii Five.
Hey, one meeting, please. There's superstars over here.
Don't get on your knees and beg for work. Get up.
Now look at this. This is a rare one, and don't tell him where you got it. Dick Byers without the destroyer mask on.
With hair.
With hair. You got to go all the way back to 1956 to see it, but there it is.
And Don Curtis.
That's right, Don Badelman.
That's right. I've never seen Byers with hair. I've never seen him without the mask.
And you've been in the shower with him.
I managed him as Dr. X and the Destroyer. I almost killed his career.
And let's see. Oh, here we go. We talked about this on the last show, or the last tape. This is, in case anybody thinks Bobby Heenan is one to tell tall tales, man objects to call, shoots 5 Matt fans in Chicago. The story, you were at ringside with Bockwinkel against Gagne that we told. This is the actual Associated Press article, folks. So don't tell me that people didn't have heat back then. Near capacity crowd of 9,709. That means you had to get easily $300 from Vern.
I still have it here. I still have it. I still have my payoff.
Oh, it says VG on it. Yeah.
No, the funny thing about this, it was a picture of Barbara Bush. $100.
It's from Vern.
I still have it here. I still have it. I still have my payoff.
Oh, it says VG on it. Yeah.
No, the funny thing about this, it was a picture of Barbara Bush. $100. Anyway, go ahead.
Fourth victim, fifth, was described as being in critical condition with a bullet wound in her chest.
I saw the woman. I came back and...
A witness reported hearing the gunman shouting angrily after the referee decided in favor of one wrestler. The man then pulled the gun and started firing toward the ring. Witnesses described him as weighing about 250 pounds and having a goatee and a mustache. Ox Baker. There you have it. He was hot.
He's just smart enough to own a gun.
That's true.
I mean, idiot can own a gun. I had cancer and survived. Some people are just idiots. You know, life gives you the obligation to be stupid. Some people at Ox Baker abuse the privilege. What is this?
Look at that.
The Sharp brothers. What these ladies do, they come to a building. This is the truth. They had screwdrivers and wrenches. They would take apart everything. They'd take lockers, everything. They would. The Sharp brothers were burglars.
And here, this is, for those of you who were around in 1980 when the Dynamite Kid was the hottest junior heavyweight in the world.
Good guy, Tommy. What a hell of a talent. Really was a good kid. He's in a wheelchair now, I guess, in England, right?
Yeah, and I heard he just had part of his leg amputated. But look at this card, December 20th, 1980. Dynamite Kid and Marty Jones, blah, 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 blah. And then down here, Young David, that was Davey Boy. He was in the opening match.
I have no idea who any of these people are. They must be people in Stu Hart's basement. Who are they? Number 307, there wasn't any people there. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I think I got a picture of my wife when she wrestled. Ears McGurk, we used to call her. Who is that?
That's a statue that they made of Paul Bosch that he had in his office. This is dedicated to his 50th
What a
anniversary.
class man he was. Nice payoff man in the business. That's Putsky? No, it's Igor.
Putsky. No, it's Putsky.
Is it?
That's Putsky, and that is...
It's a dollar. Not though.
Isn't that Missouri Mauler?
Larry Hamilton.
Larry Hamilton?
All right, look at these names. Mean nothing.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's the Sharp Brothers. 1954, San Francisco, Sharp Brothers against Brown in Brazil. Which Brown was it? Wait a minute.
Which Brazil?
Where's the card? They have the boxing and wrestling results from Los Angeles, Oakland, Sacramento.
The club what?
Trocadero. Hey!
My daughter has Trocadero.
Trocadero on South Market. Is that the one that still exists? Trocadero, whatever. It was actually for people who weren't drunk or just paroled.
Sounds like a kidney infection. You have Trocadero in his terminal. Leo Namorini, nice guy. Really nice man. He should be the promoter with Vern out there in San Francisco.
As a matter of fact, let's bop over to the other side for a second because eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Hey, Mo, what Mo can I say, Mo? Vern Gagne with hair and Leo Namalini. Minneapolis, 1957. Gagne and Namalini against Mitsu Arakawa and Kenji Shibuya. And then Vern without hair.
The AWA
20 years later.
All the world's assholes. Who do you think's the first page you see? His son taking Larry Hernamy and Bernie Wolf over at the same time. He's going to run that with money. Here's Vern.
If you notice, all the best workers in the business taking bumps off of him.
He's on the other page. What a star he was. He really was. Wasn't the greatest hand in the ring taking bumps, but what an interview, and people believed him, and you made a lot of money with the guy. Billy Robinson. Billy Superstar Graham. Think, if he'd have been there when Hogan, he'd have been Hogan. He was a little too soon.
10 years later would have done him just perfect.
Yep. There's what I'm actually saying. You used a blade? Backwinkel. Where am I? I have a picture of Nick and I said, Nick, look at the dead bird. He went, oh, dead bird. Ray Stevens, one of the most talented human beings I've ever seen in the ring. I'd say who's more talented than Ray right now. Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels. That match with Angle.
Greatest match I've ever seen in my life. That and Gorilla Book and Diamond Dallas, the midget. Here I am.
Well, I love the backwards over the top rope bump in the corner you used to do.
Bruce. $300 worth of Weezer seats. Very strong man. Good, decent man. Harry Henrik. What a tragic loss he has to live with. What a great man. He's one of the best friends I have in my life. Jim Raschke. What a tough guy, too. You know,
Whatever happened to Horst Hoffman?
He's working in Germany right now. He runs a strip joint. I don't know what he does. Guy named Jim Bunzel. Made a lot of money.
Combined weight 316 pounds.
Well, I said Bunzel didn't show up. Or vice versa.
Close that one quick.
There was a guy that had a lot of talent, but he never got over. Even if they gave him a push or something. You know, sometimes there's a guy that did. I don't know.
For whatever reason.
I don't know. What a nice man, too. Jeff Porch.
My God, I haven't thought of him in ages.
He was sitting down one day in Minneapolis TV, and Red Bastien walks up behind him and hits him on the head, and it was Vern. And Vern got mad. He said, "It wasn't the same from behind." Chris Taylor. When my wife had my daughter, she's in the operating room, right? So I didn't go through the course that you had to take.
Yeah.
I was on the road. So the doctor called me that day. He said, "You put your greens on, Bobby." So I put them on. I said, I didn't do anything. I don't know what to do if you take me in the operating room. He said, "Well, she's going to be naked, and there's going to be things. You think you can take it?" I said, "Well, I've seen Chris Taylor naked. What would be worse than that?" I wonder where the valve was on the blow-up suit. Nikolai Volkov and Freddie Bossie.
Nikolai.
As they leaving the Savoy Club. 4 midgets. There's Ric Flair when he first started.
And look at
There's
Dusty.
Buddy Rose.
That's right. That is Playboy Buddy Rose.
Before he ate the 4 horsemen.
And there's the Iron Sheik.
Before he was eating up by himself. There's Red Bastien and Mad Dog Vachon. Vivian Vachon. There's Wahoo. Bobby Brothers.
Lanza.
Ken Patera, one of the strongest men I've ever met in my life. Dick Murdoch, probably one of the best hands there's ever been in the business. Why am I reading you, Mark? Wally Tyler, one of the biggest liars.
The promoter's even got a page.
Yeah. Look at this. Not one more promoter. Take this off, put it on a Charmin roll, and use it. Robinson Crusher. I can figure that one out. I can't. It was fun, though. It was a fun life. Of course, so was San Quentin if you're a criminal.
Now look, here, with the exception of professional wrestling, the only other legitimate sport ever presented, roller derby, by a
A
crowd.
friend of mine was Ann Cavallo.
I met her in San Francisco in '88, and she was hilarious.
Oh, she's like Ray Stevens with tits. I'm not kidding you.
I loved roller derby. Loved it. Oh, let's see here. Hold on, we missed this. This may be too regional for you guys, but a program from a show they did with, you've seen Walking Tall, not the version with The Rock, but the first one, Buford Pusser. He was the referee that night because Adamsville was in McNairy County where he was sheriff, because he was a former wrestler, so he would always do special shows in that area. That night because Adamsville was in McNairy County where he was sheriff, because he was a former wrestler, so he would always do special shows in that area. And by cracky, it's a cheap program built specifically to get people's money.
But you've been down here in this area. When I came down here in 65, there was a guy from Minneapolis was a cop. Remember Billy Wicks?
Yes.
Whatever happened to him?
He actually worked, I want to say, about, what was it, 10 or 11, 12 years ago on a Memphis show. Because Sputnik Monroe and Billy Wicks drew all kinds of sellouts in Memphis in the late 50s, early 60s, so they actually brought him back to do some kind of angle. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I remember Billy Wicks from Minneapolis.
But he's still over in Memphis. He and Sputnik Monroe and Jackie Fargo, people remember him to this day. Let's see, where do we leave
War
off
of the
here?
Worlds right there.
War of the Worlds, that's a program from Atlanta for the Ali Inoki closed circuit telecast with Chuck Wepner and Andre underneath. And I don't know if it doesn't have a lineup in here, but this is the program they sold at the closed circuit. No, these were the matches. Yeah, it was Briscoe and it wasn't Briscoe and Dory. It ended up being Briscoe and Terry, Watts versus Slater, Paxsong and Mark Lewin, Mike Graham and Tony Charles.
This is Atlanta. We had one in Chicago. Was Bockwinkel and Verne, Ranzit and Duncan against the High Flyers, Orton against somebody, but it never drew any money.
Well, see, each territory did their own card. Like all the NWA territories got the Atlanta card from the Omni, and the Midwest got the AWA card. The Northeast got Bruno and Zabisco, obviously. That's the one place did draw money. Because wasn't it Bruno and Zabisco on the undercard at Shea Stadium?
No.
No, it was 1980. It was what was it?
Bruno and Hansen.
Bruno and Hansen coming off the broken neck was at Shea Stadium on the undercard. Okay.
I think they were in Chicago.
But that
I got $800. There was nobody there. I was supposed to go to Japan and manage Ollie. And then Vince Sr., who I never met that time, said, we're going to send Blassie because more people know him in Japan than knew me.
Yeah.
It made sense.
Yeah.
It was okay. So I went to Chicago for $800. But it was fun. You know, it was different. You know, Inoki and Ali and all that. It was really a different time of life.
I liked seeing the matches from the Omni more actually than I liked seeing Ali and Inoki though, because it was a little. It just.
You know what happened to that match? I
It was a
heard.
double cross of a double cross, right?
Well, Inoki thought he was going to be Ali. Ali's got Shea Stadium coming up with Shane Norton.
Yep.
So they got to Japan, and Ali's people said, what are we going to do? And Inoki's people said, well, just sit in the ring, we'll do it. And Ali's people said, wait a minute, this is wrestling, what are you talking about? Now, a boxer, 70 years cannot beat a wrestler because he can't grab him.
Yeah.
And they said, no. And I guess Muhammad's people said, well, we have Shea Stadium coming up. If anybody here hurts him, no one's going to leave the ring alive. So Inoki lay on his back and kicked Ali. There was no finish. It was the biggest farce ever. But Inoki really thought he'd go there and he'd be Ali. And they sent Gino Bell as a referee. Said,
Just in case.
Just in case. It was all political and it didn't work.
What was the result of that match?
It was a draw.
A draw.
15-round draw, no decision, which everybody just pissed off. But see, it was legitimately a shoot because Ali was scared that if Inoki took him down, he'd kill him, and Inoki was scared if he stood up, Ali'd knock him out.
Inoki wanted to be the big strong man in the country.
Yeah.
He was in Japan.
So
Him and Bobby were fighting for the rights then.
They literally went in the ring without a finish, and okay, so Ali tried to stand up and just stay away from him, and that's why Inoki went to the ground and tried to kick him, but it stalemated and it was boring for 15 rounds and almost killed a business in Japan. But
That's why we get World War II.
wait, and now here I have actually, this is actually from a wildlife park in northern Montana. This is a saber-toothed mastodon.
I'm drinking Diet Coke.
And you taught him to speak.
Not well.
That's like Mae Young giving up premarital sex.
I have a question.
It's a little too late.
Biggest payoff you ever had?
Put me right on the spot. Actually, for a wrestling match, not other type of business deals, 15 grand. He's mowing it over.
You know, I know, but I'm not sure if I should say it because I should be ever. I mean, no, WrestleMania 3.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And my 15 grand was for WrestleMania 10, where I had to take that shitty price for Luger.
35, 36, about $80.
Yeah. But you know what? Actually, the payoff that I worked hardest for was I got 10 grand for Starrcade 86. I don't mind saying, because after you deduct the $1,500 for the knee surgery that my insurance wouldn't cover, and the 7 grand that I missed for not working the next 2 weeks, and they never paid me since I was off having surgery for jumping off a 25-foot structure that they asked me to, I'm the only person that only came out $1,500 ahead for a knee screwed up for the rest of my life. So I'm the only person that ever main evented Starrcade and almost went in the hole to do it. So I'm kind of proud of that.
Gene Okerman and I did a movie called Time Master. They paid us $1,000 each. It cost me $1,050 to join SAG. Now, I'll tell you what I made for WrestleMania 3. 100 grand.
Wow.
No.
No?
Shoot me. Everybody else had over $1 million.
I know, that was, geez.
But you can't bitch about that. It should have been $5 or $750.
Yeah. And you were at, what, 4 times that night, right?
Well, anyway, then I had a parked cars and I had popcorn concession.
Yeah.
And then I had to wash more. That's not easy. There's big brushes. You go like this.
I thought you used to just use the high-pressure hose.
Well, you have to get underneath to do that.
Oh,
You have to get midgets. It's different.
yeah. When you hire those midgets to come in.
We have to pay them full money.
Okay, these are the, well, wait a minute, hold on, where'd we leave off here? Blah, 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 blah. This is Luthez's manuscript before the book was published. I was lucky enough to get one of those he autographed to me.
That was nice.
And there were minor little changes, but
Did
nothing.
you read that book, sure?
Yes. I have actually several copies for sale down here also. Tim Woods.
He's a 10. Every match he'd have would be different. He had 10 different matches with it. Good man, though. I liked him. Who is this? Oh, I like Ronnie. Oh, I like Ronnie. He would drink a case of beer, smoke a cigar, and drive 200 miles an hour every night, and never get a ticket.
These Wrestling As You Like It's were.
Marigold, yes.
Yeah, they were based around the Midwest Chicago in the early 50s.
Rudy too. Reggie Wasowski, that's the Crusher.
Do you remember this gentleman from when you were a kid, Russ Davis? He was the commentator for wrestling from the
No, I don't remember him.
Marigold.
Well,
But you didn't have a TV when you were a kid until we talked about that one time before.
yeah, but I didn't remember. When you were a kid, you didn't remember the commentators. You remember the wrestlers.
The original Bob Orton.
Now, why would they do that? Here's a guy, 6'5". Why do they have him bend over? But they didn't know how to do things then.
Well, see, and you can't tell also, but really the ceiling was only 4 feet high. So they had to...
This is a good guy. One of the guys didn't like him. I like him. Pat O'Connor. One of the best baby faces in the business. I like him. He was okay to me. Who we got here? Cowboy Carlson. That was a guy from New Jersey. Oh, this is great stuff you got.
There's the Sheik. Another one of those.
Greatest heel in the business.
Did we look at this one before? Wait a minute. It bears repeating. Dallas Sportatorium, January 1953. If you go to, I believe, page 7. Yeah, Jack Atkinson debuts. That was Fritz Von Erich's first appearance in the Dallas Sportatorium.
Let me see that. Is that him?
No, that Johnny Dobbs, whoever he might have been. But he just got a little blurb.
It's like, oh, with no hair.
It sure does. Jack Atkinson had gone to SMU, and he was just making his debut in 1953. And actually, on top, the Sportatorium obviously was still in the same place. But I'm trying to see where they line up. Here we go.
The main event was?
Roy Dunn and Irish Jack Kennedy. Those are some names that we don't even... Here we go.
The main event was?
Roy Dunn and Irish Jack Kennedy. Those are some names that we don't even remember.
Some two guys from Wendy's.
But look at that lineup, and nobody that's ever been heard of, and then there Jack Atkinson is just in the prelim, which proves everybody has to start
Against Bill Watts. Wow. 53, I was 9.
And
What is recollection of stuff you have here? I don't know anybody has this.
Here's an interesting poster, especially with what just happened, of course.
yeah, actually, this was Ron Head.
I remember that.
And put this on Father's Day Bash, and Sabu and Candido, and all of those folks, and the lovely and talented sensuous Stacy.
Didn't
wasn't
Spike Dudley on the show and he landed on his head or something? That'll probably be a Stacy question.
Yeah, wait. Hey! We need help!
I've just been delivered a Vegematic.
An original Vegematic in the box. See, I collect other things besides wrestling.
I don't want this.
Thank you very much.
On the Father's Day Bash, did Spike Dudley land on his head? Has there ever a day gone by that he didn't land on his head?
I'm not inclined to say.
Do you have any Chris Candido memories that you can share with us?
I'd like to say to Chris Candido and his friends and family, you were a heck of a guy. I loved you. I thought he was a good talent, and I liked the guy, and I'm sorry what happened. And the best to you.
But Kenny, he asked off to work for them that weekend because we were in Knoxville and Johnson City, I think, and he's like, I've got a shot in California. I said, somebody wants to book you in California, Chris? He said, oh, Ron Head and him. I said, oh, okay, go. I said, are they paying you? Yeah. I said, okay, it's more than I'm doing, so.
That's a guy.
Yeah, Chris was a great guy, and he just got turned around and got going, and like Cactus said in The Observer, who would think that you would die of complications from a surgery on a broken ankle? It's just weird.
You never know.
But Chris is, as a matter of fact, as we look at here, this is a piece on Fire on the Mountain show in Freedom Hall in Johnson City from '94, and I want to say that Tracy was probably wrestling Candido on that, I think. Let's see, where's the story? I should know this by heart. I dare there to be an article in here. Or perhaps not.
I tell you, right here, Jimmy Snuka. What a talented guy he was. I mean, the things he could do off that top rope. What an athlete. And the guy was a rugby player over in Fuji, which is kind of playing kick their cans, but... Oh, yeah.
The Johnson City show, that was the one.
You were on the air here.
And right there is that was Chris and Tammy in the Rock and Roll, or Chris and Brian and Tammy in the Rock and Roll that night. But the original Thrill Seekers, Lance Storm and Chris Jericho.
That's a Bruiser Bedlam, right?
Oh, excuse me. Where you going, JB? What are we doing now? We running? We rolling?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Bruiser titled a chapter in my yet-to-be-written book, I Managed a Murderer. All I can say is he is always a great guy to me, and I always was glad he was on my side, but I never had a single argument with him. He was a super guy. Would do anything for you, obviously. Oh.
Here's the guy. You know Joe Tangelo? Never met the Energy Brothers? Nice guy. It's amazing how things change. Tony Bourne had the greatest line I ever heard. We were in Hawaii one night. We're in the dressing room. Tony Bourne's laying on the floor. And he's black. He's been in the sun all day. And John Tolos comes to the dressing room. You know Tolos. Always talking. He says, Bourne! You always talk about the greatest lover you are, how many women you have. I've never seen you do nothing yet. Tony says you never got home early. Where did I put that?
I can't remember, actually.
Right here.
There we go. How about this? Luthez. Here's one of the old hardbacks they used to do for the early 50s, which has different rundowns of all the old guys. What?
Bobby Manigault.
Bobby Manigault, right there. Yep. And I'm actually Chicago's top mat men.
Don Eagle, Stephen Anaya, Leland McGurk, Tracy Chalbert. Most of those guys. Robert Lawson was a good friend of mine. He was raised on. He broke his back working. And how he got healthy, he rolled a log up a hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he told me he used to go hunting, bear hunting. I said, isn't that dangerous? He said, nah. A bear tries you, just climb a tree. I said, Bill, bears climb trees? He's not covered with shit they can't. It was Bill Armstrong.
This is from Texas Stadium, the second annual David Von Erich Parade of Champions, because the first year they had a match that needed a stadium, and the second year on they had a stadium that needed a match. But if you notice, that was the main event, but there was also a two-ring, 12-man tag team match. The match took place in 2 rings, and then they had our match take place in 2 rings. Oh, yeah.
The champion?
Flair's working, working twice, because, look, they've got like 18 matches, but they only had 12 different people on the card. So... And that was a dark day in our history because little John Harris was sitting next to me at ringside, which pretty well neutralized me. And talk about getting screwed on a stadium. They did a $256,000 house, and I got $800. So actually, $800 is a common payoff for a stadium with these old-time promoters. Yeah, no, that's even worse. He made Plowboy Frazier look like Luthez and Carl Notch rolled into one. Little John, Masalo Sam. That's right. Yeah, there you go. That was his first match ever in front of people. He didn't actually wrestle. He just sat next to him. That's what I was afraid of. I was leaning over sideways. Kamala and Gordy. But yeah, that's Chris Adams.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah. They had, there was like 12 guys in the territory, you know, and so everybody should have made money, but unfortunately everybody didn't. That's why we left.
I had to pay for the German orphanage he said over in Dallas.
Come here, guys. Get shots of the early official wrestlings. There's actually several. These covers to me are just classic. Gene and Steve Stanley. Look at the color. Don Eagle. That's Primo Carnera hitting Stanley. This is the first edition with Rocca on the cover. Do these names, and look at that cover again, Rocca. As you can tell, there were a few top guys that could sell magazines back then. Do these names mean anything to anybody today?
Look at this.
Primo Carnera was a former world heavyweight champion, and actually he was the inspiration for Mountain McClintock in Requiem for a Heavyweight, because he was a big, clumsy, not very well-educated guy who got manipulated by the boxing promoters and then made more money in wrestling. Did he have much?
Is that Jack Dempsey?
That is, yes.
That is Jack Dempsey.
Wow.
Those were his first 2 wives he met in Newark. And they went with the bus station there.
It was Newark. It was at the Hyatt, right? It was
Damn. There's Homely Carnero. Primo Carnero. Wow.
And Baron Leone, who drew the first $100,000 gate in the business with Luthez in 1951 at Gilmore Field in Los Angeles. I was reading.
They both got $60.
Yeah.
In Terry Funk's book, they were talking about that Thez wouldn't put these guys over as were the champions supposed to.
Well, the story was
over, but make them look good.
Yeah, Leone was a worker. He wasn't a wrestler. He was a worker, and he had the color to him and etc. And he really caught on in Los Angeles. Thez's comment was that he was having a crummy match, and he slapped the guy around to try to wake him up to do something. Everybody else thought that Thez ate him up because he didn't respect his. Thez's comment was that he was having a crummy match and he slapped the guy around to try to wake him up to do something. Everybody else thought that Thez ate him up because he didn't respect his ability because he was just a worker, he wasn't a real wrestler. I think probably the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and that he probably wasn't that good, and Thez was trying to get him to do something, and the more Thez tried to get him to do something, the scarer he got of Thez and just rolled over and played dead, and so it wasn't a very good match.
And okay.
And there you have it. This is the reprint of the book that everybody interested in wrestling should have, The Fall Guys. Scott Teal out of Nashville, who does Whatever Happened To, also does some of these reprints. You can shoot his address there for plug for my friend Scott, but he does great stuff. This book was written in the 30s, and it details the first 30 years or so of the organized wrestling business, including how Toots Mondt sketched out the outline that would become finishes and angles and programs and etc., and how business was done back in the teens and 20s and 30s. And it was an expose at the time, but it didn't really take. Not many people read it, but now it's remarkably accurate to the wrestling business now. If you just change a few things, you know, everything goes in circles. But that is a heck of a book. We pass them out in OVW. Nobody reads them.
In on that card right there.
As a matter of fact, this is one of the Bearman shows, Bobby.
In Sarnia, it's outside Detroit, it's in Ontario. Yeah, I remember that. $50.
And Bearman, he would run summers up there, right? Just little independent shows?
And he paid you great. He really did. And he ran really the Wolfman Focus. He gave him posters of prep.
Yeah.
Put them all over town. They would really put them on the stop signs. Police came and arrested Willie. He put all wrestling posters on the stop signs.
Well, who's the beast, Bobby?
That was the Bear Man. His name was Dave McKechnie. He also wrestled as the Bear Man, the Beast. And that was his daughter, Rachel Dubois.
Was that his daughter? I didn't even knew that.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane Moe had to be, what, about 50 at that time?
On one side. Carlos Belafonte. You know who that was? Carlos Colon.
Really? That's right, it was.
That's right.
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes, and if we look at the posters again, sometimes...
Right here. Bulldog Broward.
John Sullivan.
That's Johnny Valiant.
You know, sometimes you see a name and you don't know, but, well, for example, the Tom Robinson benefit, because this is the only time that Midnight Express ever wrestled Terry fucking Cactus Jack, and Eddie Gilbert was in there also because Bobby's knee was hurt and Brian Hildebrand was in the corner. But Cheetah Kid was Ted Petty.
Where was that, Jim?
This was 1990.
That's Raven.
That's Raven, Scotty the Body. That's Ted Petty of Public Enemy.
Ringside, $10. Costing out 20 for parking.
And you can also look at a couple of these other posters. I'm sorry, I'm jerking y'all around like crazy. But I wanted to find one thing here you would never think. Of course, it's easy to get lost up here. But some of the preliminaries, you can see people that later on became someone and you would never know it. Well, look, Pedro Morales in Greensboro in the second match. And, here we go. Underneath Adrian Street, on top against Kung Fu, etc., Dave Finley.
Bruno in the second match.
Well, Bruno in Greensboro is rare.
Yeah, that was amazing in its own right.
His one match he hit Charlie Fulton. Think of that. I used to manage Bobby Duncan. I managed Mulligan. I managed Flair.
Did you ever manage George Cott?
Didn't care to.
How many times did Flair and Steamboat team back then? That must have been rare.
It actually, that would have been I want to say 79 or 80, and that would have been unusual. And here's a shot. This is the old All-Star Wrestler photo album. Christine Jett, Nick Goulas, and Roy Welch. You will probably never see another picture of the three of them, and they were three of the most influential people in the South as far as wrestling for 30 years. That's probably the only picture you ever see of the three of them together.
And like the other books I had.
But let's see who else is in here. Oh, wait, Darlin Dagmar. Oh, here you go. Kanji Inoki, when he was wrestling in Tennessee in the mid-'60s. Hiro Matsuda. The Von Brauners. Remember Alex Perez?
Yeah, boxer. It says you have a shoes on here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at that. And Alex Perez wasn't exactly Andre. Well, look at this. Haystack Calhoun. But there is, this is the one I'm thinking about. It might not be. Oh, yeah, there's Mac York. We were talking about Mac York earlier. Boy, look at that physique.
Who's this?
Danny Littlebear had to get down on his knees
I
to
remember
stay the same height. Here's a piece of it. Well, besides that, I just want to get this on camera one more time. Even 15 years later, you deserved it, you prick. I just keep this around just to remind me. You got run out of town on a rail, you non-wrestling knowing bastard. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
Excuse me,
However. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
This is a roving camera photo book, collection of photographs of wrestlers by some hanger-on that used to hang around the matches. To James, professional wrestling's all-time greatest photographer. May the great managers of yesteryear hear your footsteps coming. Your buddy, Paul Heyman. Way to go, Paulie. Good pictures, too, brother. Look at that shot. It's beautiful. I like it when my fans autograph things to me, you know.
Well, you deserve it.
And, here's a prize piece of work. This is Paul Bosch's unpublished book, manuscript, that he wrote, and that it took a while to read when it was
Why does he go that way?
I'm sorry?
Why does he go that way?
Oh, well, because it's not put together.
Okay.
So, you know, elsewise, if all these pages got...
Did you know Paul?
Yes.
Good man.
Very good. Actually, he was a heck of a guy. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he came to my first wedding.
He's a good man.
It was almost worth having it just for that.
If I didn't know that, I'd have married
Vern with hair again.
It's not a bad thing to have.
These are collector's items. And this one may be even autographed.
Who are making... Oh, no. To my good longtime friend, Jim C. Thank you for...
It's your writing. Don't ask me.
Wasting my life. No, what did you say? I can't read. I have my glasses on. Thank you for...
Thank you for reading my book.
Oh, yeah.
And more than that, thank you for being my friend.
Yeah, anyway, down here...
I love it when he gets all sentimental. This is a scrapbook, actually. Oh, settlement crack. I don't know.
So, always book.
This is a scrapbook from the 40s. From Bert Causey, the promoter in Wilmington, North Carolina, which this was left behind when they closed down the Charlotte office, and stuff was in the garbage, so by cracky.
But look, you're right there in your head. Yeah. Why not find it?
The Blimp and the Swedish Angel, Dave Levin and the Swedish Angel, these are from St. Nicholas Arena in New York City back in the 40s. And, I mean, you know, you can't find this stuff anymore.
Larry Carbo told me the Swedish Angel had more women than you could imagine. Because they wanted to, she was so grotesque and looking like, they liked it.
Maybe we're just not ugly enough.
We're not. I'm not going to let my nose removed in a ear for a piece of ass. So I don't really care about that.
You know, well, maybe just one ear, because we got two of them.
Well, depends how good she is.
Let's see. Farrah Fawcett belt buckle. See, I collect more stuff than just wrestling. Oh yeah, we got this is. As a matter of fact, let me pull this out because you can see a little better here. A lot of tickets and stuff, and some of these wrestling trading cards, like the Dirty Deucix. A lot of tickets and stuff, and some of these wrestling trading cards, like the Dirty Deucix.
I know Dirty Deucix.
You know what? Slant it a little bit, because you're going to get in the light of... That is the first issue of Wrestling Review, autographed by both the Graham brothers.
Who is this? Dennis Condrey against Bobby?
Dennis Condrey against Bobby Eaton from Birmingham, Alabama in 1978, I believe.
That was before they started teaming.
Oh yeah, that's why I saved that all that time, because it was ironic.
Where did you put my bag?
Some old tickets: Memphis Studio Wrestling '79. Boston, 1958, Vern Gagne and the Sheik.
So to get to the Memphis studio, you just had a lineup.
Yeah, well, see, there was a rule with the television station that they couldn't just allow people to just come in at random, so you had to write in and get tickets. And tickets were free, but they had to send them to you. Once you had a ticket, then you could come and get in line and come in, but you couldn't come in without a ticket. Because
People used to just come down there hoping they could get in.
oh, yeah, well, they'd come down just to get autographs and everything, but they, at one time in Memphis, I want to say the waiting list for tickets was like 9 months to be able to get a ticket to get in the studio. You know, that was in the good old days. But anyway, that's just some miscellaneous stuff and old tennis rackets. This is the cast that Bob Orton Jr., as a matter of fact, wore at WrestleMania and used to wear, for, I guess, probably 5 years, right? When he was
a condom for Raka. Well, I have something else here. I have something that I don't think it's ever been on sale. I've had in my possession, and I have a couple of them, and I'd like to give you one. This is a picture taken backstage at WrestleMania 1.
Oh, my God.
Of me, before I went out. And that was the night I went with Andre.
That's classic.
That is for you.
You're going to sign it here in a little while.
And remember that picture?
Oh!
Remember that?
Yes!
I'd like you to have the jacket and the shirt.
No! He said no. Oh my God, Bobby, that's beautiful.
Now, the person that made this is a guy named Michelle and his wife Tony in Tampa. And they used to do all this stuff for the rock bands. They made all the Savage's stuff and mine.
That's beautiful.
And I'd like you to have this.
That's tremendous.
$29.95.
Wait a minute, do you take credit cards?
Yes.
Yes. I think I've got a Discover over here.
But that's the same thing.
Oh, that's great. I'm putting this up on the wall, as a matter of fact, as soon as I get stuff up on the walls.
This is what I wore. I signed it.
That's great. And this one's signed in there.
Yeah, and it goes over that with the other neck box with the arm pads.
Yeah.
You see?
Gorgeous.
That is it, and that is for you.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it.
Of course, I'm going to take half this stuff back with me.
Just get a canvas sack and we'll start loading stuff.
I don't know if anybody ever used that picture before. But I found a couple of them my wife had, and I said, well, I need to go in.
I remember because you had a reproduction of it when we were in Florida, I think, or no, in, where did we last go for you guys? Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. That is classic. I'm gonna put it over here because I'm gonna get a hanger for it and put it up.
What's the story behind the Smoky Mountain shirt?
Well, shirts, this was Mid-South. That was when Ghostbusters came out, so that's, of course, I never got any royalties, but I think they sold, I think they sold like 6.
No, you mean life?
And this is a Mama Cornette shirt from Smoky Mountain. And this was Brian Hildebrand. Mark Curtis got these made up when we closed up. And he said, can I get a shirt made? I said, sure, go ahead. And he got these and
I like Mark. God bless him. Nice man.
As a matter of fact, he's all over all that Smoky Mountain stuff because he was my right hand, left hand. Sometimes he didn't like doing the right hand stuff. He liked the left hand better. But these are a whole pair of Heavenly Bodies tights, trunks.
I like that team. I like Backlund and Pritchard.
Dr. Tom, as a matter of fact, I think those were Tom's. And these are from Adrian Street. as you can tell, they're considerably worn out. Okay. Ticket stubs and bullshit. My first timekeeper's license for the state of Indiana. By God.
I have one as a first second. If I can find it, I'll give it to you.
Indiana and Kentucky in those days, you had to have well, look here. This is my first wrestling license from Kentucky, or my first managing license. But you had to have a licensed ring announcer, a licensed timekeeper, a licensed doorman. It was like $2 for a doorman's license. But if you didn't have one, you couldn't run a show.
Let me tell you a story about how Bruiser and Snyder and Zanya took Chicago from Fred Kohler. Fred Kohler won Chicago.
Yeah.
He wanted to sell it. But he wouldn't sell it to Vern. He hated Zanya. So Bruiser and Snyder made a deal to buy Chicago. So they paid him so much. So the last check to Fred Kohler, Vern signed. So they really stuck with Fred Kohler, right? So now when I started there in '65, I had no heat with Fred Kohler.
Yeah.
But he did everything he could to destroy the promotion. So I was working in Peoria for Geigo and Bob Boyer. So to wrestle, I had to have a wrestling license. So I had to have a wrestling license. I'm 21 years old.
Yeah.
Now I get to Chicago, and the commission there said, well, you have to have a license. I said, I have a wrestling license. They said, that's all you need. When Fred Kohler came, he said, do you have a wrestling license? I said, yeah. He said, you have a manager license? I said, no. He said, you're done. So I went to ringside with Lines Up, and the commissioner, Eddie Whalen, came to ringside. He said, Bobby, Fred wants to see you in the back. I said, I'm not going back. So I looked up at Lanza in the ring. I said, what do I do? Jack said, stay here. So I sat down. Eddie Whalen says, Fred wants to see you in the back. I said, I'm staying here. He says, come to the back, talk to Fred, and you can come right back out. And I was scared I wouldn't get paid. So I went to the back. And Fred was sitting there. I said, Fred, what's the problem? If you don't understand, you're fucking done. I didn't know what to do. So I went upstairs. Bruiser says, I know what to do. He knew what to do.
Yeah.
I asked Wilbur and Vern. Vern said, you'll get paid. Don't worry about it. So he was just trying to stick it to them every time he could, because Fred was on the commission. He couldn't wear the black glove sometimes he could. They messed with you all the time. It's a bunch of sorry-ass people.
In Kentucky, the commission at that time, the wrestler's license was like $5, and timekeeper and announcer is like $2 or whatever. The manager's license was $50 because it was after boxing, and managers are supposed to be on the up and up and everything, so they made it a little more expensive to be a boxing manager. Well, I wasn't getting paid $50 for the Gardens back then, right? I wasn't going to pay $50, so we always used to get the $5 wrestler's license and just say, yeah, we're going out to second or whatever and get around it.
Sure. You know what a commission is? A commission isn't there to do anything for wrestling. A commission is there to make sure the state gets their tax money. That's it. They cannot stop a show. The only thing they can do is call the state policing and confiscate the box office.
Yeah.
To the state. They can't stop the show.
Which they'd like to anyway.
That's what happened.
By the way, if Jimmy Crockett is a subscriber to the tapes, I'm still waiting on my royalties. That's me, best arms I ever had. Now, no doubt, I even had leg muscles according to this picture, but I'm still waiting on royalties. No, nothing. Not a penny for the T-shirt. Not a penny for Starcade 86 videotape that went gold.
Next.
Anyway, nothing, nada, not a penny, not for the videotape, not for the T-shirts, not for nothing.
You mean to tell me some promoter would take advantage of one of
And
those?
I got free T-shirts.
Are those masks of any note?
Actually, these are replicas. These are. Remember when you were a kid in the magazines, the old Dr. X mask and the old Destroyer masks?
I managed him and he was both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, little mess.
People's heads are bigger than they used to be. Yeah, that's about what everybody looks like when they wear that mask.
I'm used to being in a girl like this without garter strips.
Destroyer would come up to everybody, he'd introduce himself. How you doing? Big Dick Hurts. Nice to meet you.
You know, I'm in Kansas City once, there's a wrestler there with a mask. when somebody's listening to meet somebody, you tell them who you are. So I went to the guy. I said, he put his hand on. He said, masked man. In Kansas City once, there's a wrestler there with a mask. When somebody's listening to meet somebody, you tell them who you are. So I went to the guy. I said, he put his hand on. He said, masked man. I said, fag manager. I thought we were talking about a better gimmick.
Yeah. You weren't introducing yourself. You were describing yourself.
I said, hey, he's a masked man, fag manager. I don't know where you want.
Let's see, what else did we miss? Some of this stuff is, most of this is non-wrestling related here. Just shit that I like. The Magic 8 Ball. Still in the original box.
Jay Roberts, no, get back downstairs. This is a game.
Now you had a spot for Jake one time when Andre was the giant machine.
Andre was the giant machine, and Billy was the super machine. Mm-hmm. Remember that? They had a mask, and then they brought in Mulligan, who was the big machine.
Yeah.
So I told Vince, I said, why don't you put a mask on Jake Roberts and call him the Coke machine? And he swore at me.
But with fondness.
Oh, yes.
With great fondness.
Real fondness. He's in Connecticut making millions. I'm here in Kentucky looking at pictures of him.
Oh, golly. These... A lot of this are newspaper articles, which would take forever and 3 days to go through this stuff, but this is a Louisville paper from 1975. Crazy Luke Graham, Tojo, Mongolian Stomper. Well, there's stuff in here that goes back a long way. Newspaper ads for individual cities, Louisville, Memphis, Evansville, Lexington. There's Atlanta in there.
It's hard to believe they gave that much coverage.
There was more, if you look back, there was more on professional wrestling in the newspapers in the 60s and 70s and 80s than there is now about long shot.
Oh, the funny thing is, they wouldn't cover it until you did business. Once you had a good house on it, then they wanted to.
Then they do stories on the surprising resurgence of wrestling when it had been surging all the time. This actually is one of those sumo belts. It's a silk sumo belt from World War II era that my dad brought back from Tokyo after the war. And I don't know how you tie them. That's why they're so talented. But look at that work there. Just, their stuff is so nice. So it's kind of wrestling related, so I keep it up here.
Sure.
I can't, and I don't know how to tie it or fold it, but.
Earl Monsoon, when he used to come to the ring, they announced him, he'd take his jacket off, he would fold it real nice, and he'd put it in a four and kick it. Well, this is great. You have some great stuff.
Well, then also, we didn't look at the videotapes, but it's hard to look at that video.
I don't have enough life for it.
But if you ever need any tapes of anything for the last 40 years, just check with me. I still have a fully functional Super Beta machine. It was a better format than VHS. I think we didn't forget anything over here. This was the night the High Country Chevy Free-For-All. Terry Funk did a John Ayers benefit when John Ayers was sick with cancer, and had a bunch of people come in, and we were happy because we got to work with Dory Funk Jr. and Dick Murdoch, and Ray Stevens was booked as special referee, and he was not there. I don't know why, but that would have made it
happy hour.
Now there you go.
That's a heck of a card.
And they were full. They had 6,000 people, and what response. And just working with Dory and Dickie in Amarillo was a thrill for us, but especially with the crowd. I mean, everything they did, they just went insane.
That was when wrestling was
fun?
Really, come here. Usually 15 minutes with a top wrestler. If If the guy started to fight it back, all I had to do was say, ref, my hair, and the ref would turn around, you pull his hair. I mean, you could, and the ref, and people were yelling, you go, no. And when the referee turned around, you choke the guy and grab the whole, it was so easy.
The other day at the OVW show at the flea market over here, I went around asking for donut holes. Does anybody have a donut hole? We need a donut hole. They're going, you want me to run the store? I said, no, wait. Here's a donut hole. That's it. That's it. Donut hole. You ever work a donut hole for... So the guy went out and they worked the donut hole for 10 minutes. The crowd got up. Some of the old women started coming to the ring, shaking their fists. He's got nothing in his hand. He takes it out of his tights. He hits the guy. He puts it back in his knee pad. He brings it out of his knee pad. He puts it in his mouth. Brings it out of his mouth. Puts it under his arm. The people are going crazy. The only thing you got to watch out for is when you put it under your arm and then you get it back out of your tights. Then there's trouble.
I used to do that here on tongue depressor, right?
Yeah.
And I would take the guy, I train this one, I'd take the thing, bang. And then I stick it up my tights, they're half hanging out. And I tell the ref, whatever I tell you, don't check. I said trunks. So he would check everything else on me. And I'd walk around so everybody in the whole building could see it. Then I'd take it out and I'd use it again and I'd grab hold of the ropes and put it there. And have him check it. And I'd walk around, everyone was going nuts. Then with Sam Miniker, I'd put it in my boot. I'd wash the guy and put it in the boot and I'd back up the apron. And Sam had taken my boot. And then I couldn't find it. And I'd jump on the apron and yell at Sam and the guy suplex me and 1, 2, 3. People loved it though.
I used to do the thing with the donut hole. You take it around, put it in and out, blah, blah, blah. Finally, when you've got it in your knee pad or your mouth or wherever, any place but your tights, the guy would be saying, check his tights, check his tights. I'd go, of course I don't have anything in my tights. Look here, and I'd have on under long tights and then trunks. I'd take the trunks and put them down on my ankles. See? Nothing. And just then the baby race come over and shove me, and my pants are around my ankles. I'd take the bump, hop up, shove me down again, roll out on the floor, pants around my ankles. Look like Jimmy Swaggart on Airline Highway on, Sunday morning.
But you can't get better entertainment than that. Really?
There's something about a man with pants around his ankles that's just entertaining for the American public. Here we have The Office in various stages of completion.
With an empty bed?
Actually, it's really empty. Not even any mattress. Hold on here. Let me get some light going on here. Oh, well, as a matter of fact, here, let's get the whole stack. Because this is a collector's item. These are pictures I took of Andy Kaufman in Memphis.
Oh, wow.
And
What was he like?
he was great. If you've seen I'm From Hollywood or you've seen Man on the Moon, that was Andy. He was a great guy. He loved wrestling, and he didn't act like a star.
You know, I had
Roland and Jared at ringside watching. That's the happiest you've seen them in a while.
But I never had a problem with him. You know what the problem
Waller
was?
and Kaufman together. That's before their match, when he was just coming in to wrestle women.
He came to Chicago to be in the corner with me and Patera against Waller. So I picked him up the air hose.
Yeah.
I knocked on the door. I saw him in the lobby. He was real quiet. I said, I'm going down to the amphitheater on 6. You need a ride? Yeah. I said, I'll pick you up at 6. 6 o'clock, he never showed up. So I'm up to his room and knocked on the door, and he opened the door like this. It was real dark in there. I said, about ready to go? Yeah. Shut the door, came down with his bag, we went to the amphitheater, went upstairs, he came to finish, and he had a sports coat on, and he had about 50 pens in the pocket. He said, what do I do with all these pens? I said, well, put them someplace. He said, I don't have any place to put them. So I told him where to put them, but I said, just put them in my bag. So he put them in my bag and his coat, and he rolled them up in a ball. And he went to the ring. I said, just stay close. Chicago was rough. So he's out there yelling, he's backing up into the people and everything, and I'm pulling him. He'll put you back to the people.
Yeah.
But he was okay. He knew what he was doing. He was a talent. We got in the ring, we did what we had to do. We went back to the dressing room. He didn't take a shower, nothing. He put his coat back on, and he gave his pants and put them back in. Lawler and I drove back to the airport at the hotel. Never said a word. He went to his room. Nice to meet you. That was it. Yep. And they said he was sick at that time. He knew he was dying. And it wasn't real. He was meditating.
Yeah, that's about that time, because it was funny. Jimmy Hart used to joke, because as I cough, he said that Andy, one of the last times he came to Memphis, Andy said, boy, I don't feel good. You know, I've had this cough. And Jimmy said, oh, don't worry, you're probably just catching a cold or something. But
That's your hurt.
yeah, they did a deal where they carried him back from the ring one time, and everybody was like, as they came back, because Kaufman had no tan whatsoever, funny again, but he had like zits, bad acne everywhere, and everybody was like, oh, God, geez, we don't carry this guy.
But it worked. He did business with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he was a bad guy. It wasn't really. He didn't speak that much, but he really loved wrestling, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he was a bad guy. It wasn't really. He didn't speak that much, but he really loved wrestling, I think.
Yeah. Oh, he did. The first times he came down, he just did it for a chance to do it and not even get paid. This is a big article in the Memphis newspaper when Jerry Jarrett split from Nick Goulas and opened his own company. They were talking about the dueling shows that were going to be in town and etc. And wrestling was huge then. I mean, this was before the ratings heyday. This was 1977, and well, according to Arbitron, for October 1976, studio wrestling reached 135,000 households at 11:30 a.m. Saturday morning. By comparison, a Sunday night World Series game reached 136,000. So wrestling was doing World Series numbers in 1976 in Memphis. And it also says, in 1976, they drew 335,000 fans for 51 dates. So that's what? Basically, average 7,000 people for 51 dates. And 76 was not their best year. A lot of this, yeah, there's your favorite guy again, Bruiser. Klondike Bill, what a nice
Good
man.
man. I like Klondike.
Nice man. This is an article on...
He had like a 58
Oh, yeah.
or something.
The big Texan in Amarillo, yeah. Articles on Jerry Jarrett. This is the Magnum TA when he had his car wreck. They had, I would say the hospital, it says here somewhere.
2 rats crying.
Yeah, they had received 300 to 500 telephone calls the morning of his accident at the hospital.
They were going to groom him for the NWA champion.
Yeah, he was going to be the next guy. The Last Stampede. Here's the Last Stampede. Watson Dog against the Midnight Express. Let's see. Hold on here. Big articles they did on. I used to have a great friend in Memphis that would send me all the articles that they did in the paper on wrestling. And look at Jerry Lawler's 1967 Treadwell High.
67. I've been in the business 2 years and my street twice. My money.
Colonel Sanders' obituary. Well, hey, we're in Louisville. Hold on here. I gotta dip down here a little bit. So I want to show you. Most people do not. Oh, here's one thing. By God, I may not have been the biggest star in the world, but in Charlotte, I was on top with Neil Diamond by a cracky.
Where's the cracky? Oh, you mean behind him? I'm going to see him. That's great.
They had me and Ronnie Garvin in a cage.
Best movie you ever made.
Yeah.
You can't get hurt?
Me and Garvin were in a cage. I was scared to death. That's Boss Man. Oops. I'm losing this shit. Brat.
Yeah,
I got to get all this
Fritz was
stuff.
amazing. Fritz could nip up. You know? He did nip-ups and everything.
Oh, he was a heck of an athlete in his day. This was a piece they did in the Knoxville paper on the Night of Legends show that we did in Knoxville in '94. Ron and Don Wright. This is a couple of pieces on Crockett Promotions they did in the Charlotte Observer, and you can see Crockett's talk to TBS on selling wrestling interests. The Charlotte Observer, that was the headline, front page. That's how over wrestling was in the Carolinas at that time. And so I put these two because they did one article, multi-million-dollar Crockett Incorporated keeps low profile, grappling and growing, and like 6 months later, they're talking to TBS
What was the
about
name of the
selling.
office area? What was that street called?
Barbend. It was an old convenience store. That was the office that was competing with Vince on a national scale. An old convenience store on Barbend Drive in Charlotte.
Now it's a red roof for midgets.
Yeah, and if they'd have stayed there, they'd still be in business.
Well, look at this. None of these guys that try to copy it. This young guy here.
Yeah, I hate guys like that. Oh, we talked about Andy Kaufman. 1 second. There's a whole collage of Lawler and Kaufman stuff, including the newspaper ad from the card and all of the...
Didn't Kaufman try to do this in New York, but they didn't want it?
Yeah, he tried to do it at the Garden because that was what he knew, because he's from New York. And I think the word that I got was that they said it was too funny or whatever, it wasn't serious enough. So he talked to Bill Apter, and Bill Apter said the only real wrestling promoter that will do something like that is in Memphis. Yeah. And there you go.
He was sick that week. Where's Tommy Rich doing?
Laying there on the mat. Right now, probably drinking. Not sure.
Any place? Is he working? Is he alive?
I haven't seen him in ages.
Where do you live? Atlanta?
Well, he was living in Georgia.
In ECW,
Yeah.
he had a big house and everything.
ECW would be the last time I saw him. Yeah. And just on television. Guys, I'm sorry because a lot of this stuff is framed and it needs to go up, but I haven't got a chance to go through it. But thank God I had a gold sequin stripe on my pants, or you would have never seen me hanging off the scaffold. That's the stupidest thing I've ever done, right there.
Never had done that. Would never have done that. I'm scared of heights. I don't even like a broad over 6'9". We don't come off a scaffold.
Oops. Oh. Well, here's a safer altitude.
That I don't mind. David San Martino asked me once, he says, can I press line you? I said, wait a minute. Yeah, I can take a 4-foot bump.
I got these from, these are the ones, well, shoot, you know what? Either these or the other ones are the ones I got from Eric Caden at the Hollywood Book and Poster Company. He was at Tampa for that reunion. There.
Picture of you and on top. Is that?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, let me get that. This is a classic, by the way. Look at that fictitious Bruno and Thez cover, and Lou autographed it for me. This was at OVW several weeks ago. We were in the room actually talking, and people could hear there wasn't any furniture breaking or anything going on, and so they snuck in with a camera to snap the picture, and we turned around and saw them both at the same time. Try to keep that. That's Jimmy. That's when he switched heel.
Jimmy who?
Jimmy Valiant.
Where?
What a difference 20 years makes. And, Frank Morrell and J.J. Dillon. See, I mean, this whole thing is a crapshoot here with what you might find. Here's me and Rick Rude's ass. No, we're doing shots one day, and I'm sitting in a chair, and the photographer's taking a close-up of me, and all of a sudden Rude comes over and goes like that, and I went, he snapped it, and got framed with a booker. Yeah, I never could get it straight. Which one am I supposed to kiss? But a lot of this stuff is going to be up on the sequel, part view of Fabs. Oh, I took that of Joe LeDuc and Jerry Lawler at the Gardens in 1978. What a backdrop.
Yeah, Lawler can work. There's no doubt about that.
Amazing bumps for his time. Probably the only picture of me in the Rock and Roll Express just about ever. Oh, here's Steve Anderson drew that for me a long time ago.
Super.
And he didn't believe me when I said I had it framed and it was on my office wall. It was on my office wall, but I took it down when I moved. The people who bought the house after me, they didn't really want the picture of me, so. But, yeah, tell you what, boys, fill in for 1 second. I got to pee. Out later, is that?
Absolutely.
Can't be me, I don't live here.
Yeah, I heard you guys out earlier talking about many of the fans. A lot of the fans have gotten together and signed things and given them to you. And I hate to admit it, but I'm a huge fan of both of you two. Myself, Jimmy, you've been a fine manager over the years. There, as a matter of fact, the top 10 rankings come out not long ago. Thought I'd sign that to you. If you can.
To number 3. I'm number
Absolutely, absolutely. I heard a lot of people saying top 10, top 3. Mr. Heenan, to you. Purely an honor to have been on the show with you here a couple of days ago, and I hope that means something to you.
It does. By the way, you know that Walmart down the street? Yeah. Are we still going to go there and get those free,
I just got to blow my nose because I got this side. Oh, thank you.
You got you got the wrong ones. That's yours.
Oh, sorry, Mom.
Yeah, that's the wrong ones.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate this.
Yeah. I knew it would mean a lot to
They
you.
asked me something else to me, but that's nice.
Big shot.
Exactly. No, thank you. 40 years of my career speaks really nothing. No.
I'll put this right over here where I won't lose it.
Me too.
It is, yep.
No,
You can do that again if you tried it 150 times.
No.
I'll put this right over here where I won't lose it.
Me too.
It is, yep.
No,
You can do that again if you tried it 150 times.
Yes, I can. My brain. Watch this. See it again? No, really. Thank you very much. This is nice of you to think of us and do something like this.
Consider me a fan.
Why don't you get in the sea room and get some air on us?
I won't spin.
There's the co-house walking back their broads to the airport.
Watch my elbows sharp. I'm like,
Spread out.
There's
I
a
trump you.
camera cars walking their wives to the plane. Our niece is on the left. These are fun books when you were a kid to read, you know?
Yeah.
And look at the pictures.
That's what I liked reading wrestling magazines when I was a kid because you got to see pictures of all of the people that you didn't get to see live, and you got to read stories that were totally concocted and fictitious, but you didn't know that then.
Reggie Parks.
And reality had nothing to do with anything. It didn't get in the way of shit.
Remember the Von Brauners?
Oh, yeah.
You know their names?
Carl.
Well,
Doug Donovan.
Doug
I
Donovan.
know the other guy's name.
He was Kurt, right? Was Doug Donovan? Was Kurt Von Brauner? Because
They weren't twins, but they were so.
Carl and Eric. Carl was always here in this territory, but in Florida, Eric stepped in for Carl sometimes. But Doug Donovan was always the constant with one girl.
He was a pilot.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy? What's his name? Did he ever work with anybody else?
That's all I ever knew now.
I don't think so. I can't.
There is the first man I ever managed. Joe Tommaso, the Bat. That's the truth. Him and Guy Mitchell were the Assassins. It was the first team I ever managed in Indianapolis.
Bronco Lubitsch.
Homer Odell.
Oh my God.
Vern Gagne.
He's a field sergeant.
William
Look at
Baker.
Ray Stevens' face.
He told me when they were in a match in Rockford, and it's dead. And Rockford was a dead town. He said, I'm going to shift gears. He started choking and went. And his eyes started coming, the hair started coming, you could feel him coming. Nick says, Sir Robert, I said, Nick, he's shifting gears. That's how Ray was.
But it's body language. You can tell when it gets turned up a notch with the guys that know how to control things.
Just look at that
It
face.
makes
Look at
people
that.
excited. Yeah.
Look at that.
He's a madman.
And he's not holding any harder than that.
No. The cow
You ever
palace.
take the giant swing?
No.
You know how to keep from getting dizzy? Bill Murray told me, stare in the eyes, the guy's giving it to you. How you gotta shut their eyes? If you stare in the guy's eyes, you never get dizzy.
Because you're looking at a constant thing that's not moving.
Right?
Ray Stevens told me in like 1962, 63, when they opened up the Cow Palace, did the angle with Gomez, he's making $150,000 a year to live in San Francisco. He had a boat, he had a motorcycle, he had a sports car, he had a house on the beach. Spent all the money, never paid any taxes, don't get me wrong, but can you imagine in 1963 making $150,000 a year, living in San Francisco with a beach house, a boat, a car, motorcycle, the whole 9 yards? He had it made, he had it set.
You know, Ray told me once, I said, Ray, we have to pay estimated tax. He goes, what's that? I said, we have to estimate how much you make. He said, how can I do that? I said, Ray, we've been here in the AWA for 10 years. You know, you made the same last year. They'll make the same this year. He said, okay. So we filled out his tax form, sent it in. IRS came to get him. You know why? He said, if I had to guess how much I make, guess who sent it in? He wouldn't sign it. Thanks, Harlan. That was Ray.
What does he say? How many times? Was he married 5 times? Or?
To the same woman. No, he was married. I think 2 or 3 times, but he lived like 3 or 4.
Yeah. Because
His
he
first
told
wife
us.
was Teresa.
Yeah.
And she looked like a cross between Strongbow and Fez. I was about 15 years older than Ray. And Ray said, I said, Ray,
She's the one that taught him how to work, right? She was already wrestling.
Oh, yeah, but you couldn't teach Ray how to work. He was like Rogers. He knew how to work. And she was tough. I said, Ray, aren't you afraid of her? He said, I have her on her knees twice a week begging. I said, did you hit her? He said, oh, no. She told me to come out from under the bed and fight like a man. That was Ray Stevens, God bless him.
He told me he'd made like 5 fortunes, but he said the problem is I had 6 wives. You know, it's some joke like that.
I asked him, I said, how old were you when you first had sex with a woman? He said, 6. I said, Ray, where'd you take her? He said, I don't know. I was too drunk to remember. That was Ray Stevens. He asked me this, you want to go bulldogging with me? I said, let me get this straight. You mean you get on a horse and get going about 20 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and then jump off the horse onto a cow, going 25 miles an hour, and then wrestle the bastard to the ground. He said, yeah. I said, are you nuts? I'm in the car, we're in a liquor store. You're going to jump off on a cow? Are you nuts? That was Ray. When you were scared, he used to fly, big bag, everything, right? He was terrified of rides. He wouldn't go on a roller coaster or anything.
Stevens?
He wouldn't do that.
I didn't think he was scared of anything.
I wouldn't either, but he wouldn't do that. He said he knew too many carnies.
Well, you got a point there.
That was it.
It's not the incapacity of the car. It's the loose nut behind the wheel that makes most accidents.
Who's ever driving a wild mouse?
How about the trophy case?
Trophy case. Hold on, we got more.
Oh,
stuff.
by the way, the burial vault for Willowbrook. Are you okay, Roger? All right. He's okay.
Sudite. Yeah, this is it's a piece in the Louisville Courier Journal Scene magazine on OVW. By God, we get a lot of press around here. And it's only a small bribe because this is a medium-sized market, so it's not like New York or Philly. The trophy case, let's see. Bubblegum cards. Lost in Space, Superman, Batman, The Munsters. One of the boys, we used to work for Crockett, made that for me a long time ago, the Midnight Express gimmick.
Remember the wrestler Ron Bass? Remember the name? Yeah. This is his belt he used to wear. Yes. I don't know.
We have no finish for that bit, but remember
Here's he off the gas.
Oh yeah. No, that's actually when he went to work for Bruiser.
Help me. Send me home.
You remember the WFIA, Wrestling Fans International Association? That's the Photographer of the Year award for 1980, and that's my Slammy.
So that they actually give you the Slammy Award?
Yeah, they actually give you the Slammy. And I've won so few trophies in my life that I have resorted to putting these things in a case.
You know, when I had the first Siamese, they gave Monsignor one. We never got one.
You're kidding?
No. I don't want one, but they never gave us one. But really, I would have taken it, but they never gave us one.
I actually had it holding my door open, for a while, and then...
Oh, your royal belt was busy.
Well, you know...
This is great. This is really great. You know, a lot of people in life would give everything to have something like this. Their whole life in front of you, right here in one room, and over the whole house, and
my life is flashing in front of my eyes all the time.
well, think about it. Your whole life in one room in Kentucky.
Oh my God! I know
Is Tennessee closed?
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm taking the coward's way out.
Let me see how. Continue to make me. Let me see what to do when Shane puts a gun to your back.
Okay, stick them up.
Cheers. What else would you do?
That's really fucking funny. Now over here we have some more footage of. Oh, sorry, Bobby. I accidentally put this in my pocket and.
Crime Stopper? Oh, sorry.
They don't need to know about it. There's a probation thing going on.
You mean you can't buy beer?
Oh, look at this. See, I'm telling you, there's so much bullshit here. I got to get this mounted because it's a little thin. But this is from 1942 or thereabouts. Martin the Blimp Levy, who was the first fat man in the business, and the Swedish Angel, who obviously was the first ugly man in the business. And that's from New Haven, Connecticut.
And they put them together, and now the biggest, fattest, ugliest man in the business is retired.
Actually, you can
You ever see Strongbow anymore?
I'm sorry?
You ever see Strongbow anymore? I hate him. Retired.
Actually, you can
You ever see Strongbow anymore?
I'm sorry?
You ever see Strongbow anymore? I hate him. You know what? I hate him.
Strongbow?
He was a user. He used people. He abused his authority. Look at the prices. Look at the prices.
75 cents, $1.15, and $1.50. And look, Reginald Siki. We were talking about Sweet Daddy Siki. He was one of the openers.
Pardon me. Now over here somebody say something about a fat, ugly man in the business.
No, not you. No.
We don't consider you in the business.
Should we call a cab? You don't like Strongbow? Has to be on the road for 30, 60 days. And Honky Tonk Man works every day. And he brought his family. His little boy, Roy, and his wife would come to see him. Maybe for the weekend, once a month. They weren't doing nothing with Honky Tonk. He would put him on first or second. Strong would put him on last.
Just for asking, right?
Just so he knew his wife and kids were there. And wanted to punish the guy. So he knew Honky Tonk didn't like him. He abused his authority. He's a pig with a capital. I can't say it well because of my throat. P-I-G, fat boy.
But now, don't sugarcoat it, Bobby. Say what you really think.
He's an asshole. I mean it. You want to fight me? I don't care.
See, I get cranked up about all sorts of people, but when he gets cranked up on somebody, pow, right in the kiss.
It shouldn't be like that. You know what I mean?
Well, Strongbow he did hold a major record in the business, so he slept in more catering rooms than anybody else in the history of wrestling.
You know why his nose is so big? It was free. You know why he walks like this? He's looking for change. You know the guy, him and Ric Flair can smoke a cigar in the shower. He used to be in a rock band. Remember the Guns N' Roses? I don't like the way. I don't want to give him any time. Flair's a good man. Chief, Indian. His name is Joe Scarpa.
He's Italian.
He's Italian from Newark. He is. He's a pig. I hate him.
But now, wait a minute. You're giving Newark a bad name.
No, he's really now. He moved. So I don't like him. He never liked me. He never liked me. I don't like him.
He walked out on Vince, too, after he had a favor job, and they sent him home, and they said, we'll pay you to stay home because that way you'll do better than if we pay you to come here.
And if Vince would have
he hops and goes to WCW.
And if Vince, no, he didn't. They wouldn't use him. He was
sitting in the...
He was looking for work.
Yeah.
He's incapable of
He didn't
doing
even get the
anything.
job, as a matter of fact. He sat in the bleachers in the stands for WCW on television, and then they didn't even give him a job. That's how smart he was. That's another thing.
Just don't like the guy. Never had, never will.
There's a picture of Strongbow we can tear up around here. No.
I think it's on the toilet paper roll.
Well, I'm just digging around. Here's something I just got recently. The Midnight Express made like 12 pages.
And the Jim Barnett's Spice Water.
11, 12 pages. The West Virginia State Law Books. Our lawsuit actually got cited in a legal Snabbits Favits. The point is, they teach about us in law school now in West Virginia, which shows you what West Virginia is like.
I haven't seen glasses like that since Blasie's woman with him. She was 81. She drove him to the airport in Newark in 1937. Nice. What's she doing? Bottle wrapper thing. That's my wife's.
That's right. I forgot. I accidentally had that in my pocket last time I saw her.
Oh yeah, Peter might be alive.
To my little grass shack. Oh, we got here. Dennis Corluzzo.
Who is that?
You never got a chance to work for Dennis. He used to run shows up in New Jersey. Here's his business card. Dennis Corluzzo, the wrestling czar, the Corluzzo building, downtown Camden. Phone BR549.
That's probably why.
He ran some good shows, but he was a great guy. He was a good friend of mine and Boland's over there. Murals. Hey, you need a tuxedo?
Yeah, I just gave you mine.
Well, I'll give you mine, and then we'll each have one still.
And when all this stuff is gone, and there's no longer wrestling, we can work at the Red Roof.
Actually, this is the brand new XL2 Oric. It's a souped-up model.
I got good news for you.
I tell you, it'll suck sand out of cement. What?
I just saved a lot of money in my car insurance by switching to Bob Geico. There's a Geico.
Okay, well, on that note, bring us to a merciful ending. We'd like to thank Jim Cornette and
I have a picture here of Vince and Win at their wedding.
No, as a matter of fact, no. That is Brad Hildebrand, Mark Curtis, and Pam, their wedding picture.
He's a good man. Sure.
The gerbil.
Jim, thank you for inviting us into your house.
Thank you,
Bobby,
Gary.
thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
And you guys, folks, thanks for being here.
Kenny, thank you for getting in the way. Let's see.
You know why we have him here? He keeps the fly off the food.
All right. Okay, welcome to Secrets of the Ring. We're here in Boston with Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
We're going to get right to the questions here. What makes a good basic promo?
You know, it's funny, a lot of guys ask me over the years, I'm going to do this straight for you people. I try to be humorous with everything I do because life is funny to me. But a lot of questions that need to be answered. A lot of guys want to learn and want to know why. A lot of guys used to ask me how to do an interview. Now, you can't really teach anybody. I said, well, you shave, don't you? So you're in front of the mirror for a couple of minutes. Be Baron von Raschke, be a cowboy, be a masked man, be a babyface, be a hero, do your 2-minute interview, learn your expressions in the mirror. Because when you're in front of a camera, sometimes there's no monitors and you're not seeing what you're doing. In the movies and in Hollywood, everything is shown back to them so they know where they're at. So you have to learn. Start off the interview with a point. Like a movie. They start the movie, everybody knows who the characters are. Then they build their heat. Then at the end there's a big comeback and you go home. Everybody's happy. Same with wrestling, same with anything in life. Same with your honeymoon. Mine was a little different. But basically, understand what you're going to say. Don't yell and scream. If you yell and scream at the beginning, then when you're in a position to have to do an interview where you yell and scream, it don't mean nothing.
Well, this leads into the next question. Besides not being rehearsed or having a good feel for it, what are the biggest mistakes you see in today's wrestlers with the promos?
With promos, they yell and scream. And they don't talk about what happened. They figure you all know it. And not everybody watches TV every day, every hour, so you have to reinforce it. Why do you think they constantly tell you how much the cars are at Ben's Autos for $3.99? They tell you over and over. Same way with wrestling. Whether you pay attention or not, that's not our problem. But they have to realize, last week in Cincinnati, this guy glommed me from behind, hit me with a chair like no one else ever did. Well, tonight, right here in Boston, I'm going to take care of that. Nobody's hitting me with a chair again. You may think you can do it. You have to pick up your pitch and draw the people in. You start screaming at somebody right off the bat, they don't want to listen. And when you talk soft and whisper, they don't want to hear. I I like to eavesdrop. I like to peep in windows too, but that doesn't matter. But that's what you have to do. You have to just learn how to do it.
Well, what should a good baby face say? Or is there...
I quit.
In a basic promo.
He's going to talk to the people, not talk to his opponent. Because his opponent obviously doesn't care about him. So you have to talk to people. I'm sorry what happened last time. Well, I'm not going to let this guy come to this town and do what he's done to you people. And do what he's done to this person. He's going to learn tonight who I am. You have to talk about yourself, talk about your match, and talk about the town. And be humble. People like humble. I've seen a lot of baby faces, they were so arrogant that the people didn't like them. They were heels.
And, of course, what should a good heel say?
A good heel should be very direct. They should say, like, tonight, I'm wrestling Argentina Rocca. He's a big, big man, but I'm a little bit bigger. He maybe knows his way around that ring. I know my way in and out of that ring. So you bring in all you got, Rocca. All your big power tools and all your big fists, and you're not going to beat me. And you make it that way. You talk to the people. You got, Rocca, all your big power tools and all your big fists, and you're not going to beat me. And you make it that way. You talk to the people out there, and you get them involved.
How do you make a promo seem real? And I think this question really applies to, wrestling in this day and age.
And no one believes it. It isn't real, so it's hard to do. Very hard to do. The only way to really do it is to really hurt somebody, I guess. I don't know. There's so much anger you can show, but you wonder if anybody really cares or believes it. I don't know. Entertain them, they'll come out. That's what they want. To make it real, it has to be real.
Okay. What things, or is there anything that you should never say in a promo? For instance, mentioning that you lose a match.
You never mention you lose a match. Let's say Vern Gagne. You never mention he's a bald old man. Because the people will say, yeah, he is. You knock his wrestling ability, the stuff he's good at. You never say Wahoo McDaniels was a big fat Indian. No, he's a crazy Indian. You can't stop him. You have to put over your opponent's strong parts and never knock his weak parts. And then you make it right.
Hey, were there any wrestlers that sort of fell into that trap with upsetting other wrestlers with their promos?
Oh, yeah. Dr. Big Bill Miller years ago. He was 6'7", 320 pounds. Heck of a wrestler from Ohio. And he did a promo about Dick the Bruiser. He's this 5'8" midget. Why did people in Indiana cheer him and they could cheer an athlete like me? That was your race. Bruiser never let that thing air. Because it embarrassed him. So you never say things like that.
Okay. What do you think of getting a script for promos, as happens a lot today?
I don't know. I can't be scripted. I have to come off the top of my head. If you really give me something to read, I probably couldn't remember 4 or 5 words out of it because my mind just goes like that. You have to. I can't use somebody else's words or somebody else's feelings. They have to be mine. If I'm reading somebody else's feelings, you can tell it's not me. I have to do me. I have to be Bobby Heenan. The next guy has to be Fred Smith, Bob Jones. They have to be their character, their identity. You can't be somebody else.
Okay. Who do you consider the best promos in wrestling and the guys who should be studied for both baby faces and heels?
Well, Dusty Rhodes. Never had a loss for words. Neither is Ric Flair. They're so entertaining by what they say. And with the woo! And Dusty with the elbows and this, that is entertaining. And some guys just get out there and they fall flat on their face. And I hate to say it, but that's why they have managers. A manager is a crouton on a salad. That's how I feel. You have your salad, you have your tomatoes, you have your meat. That's the opponents. That's your man. And then some extra on the top is me. See, if that guy could talk, he probably wouldn't need me. But if I'd manage guys who could talk, Ray Stevens, Nick Bockwinkel. You put me with them, it's an added plus, because we both can talk, and we were both good at what we did. But managers were usually used for guys that couldn't talk. That's why they had a manager. But if guys don't talk, I don't care who you are, you have no identity, people won't come to see you. They want to see, they want to feel your character. And that's what's wrong with wrestling today. Everybody thinks, well, from the matches, you get a good win. People, I don't think, really care what you... First of all, how many clotheslines do you see in a match? How many things do you see in a match you see in a match before that? But there's only one interview. Everybody should do a different interview. And I don't talk like Raka. Raka don't talk like Hickey. Guys don't talk like each other. They're all different. That's where people can... That's where they get their feeling, their grip on who you are, and they want to be behind you, or they want to hate you. People hated me because I was sarcastic. I used to talk about the town, the people. I used to say, Columbus, Ohio. You know who won Miss Columbus, Ohio last year? No one. There isn't anybody. There's a guy at the gas station, Earl, came in third. That was it. And that would make the people mad. They would also entertain the people that didn't believe wrestling. So you have to do both. You have to entertain and get your heat and make both of them buy tickets. Because for 1 hour, for me to go out there and be horrible, that's going to get old. Because not everybody believes I'm like that. Everybody wants to be entertained, so you have to do that too. And put your heat in there too. It all comes with the experience.
Okay, well, as far as managing, do you feel that this is a lost art?
Yeah. They don't. The reason they don't use managers, WWE and NWA, I don't know why. I think they use women because they like the way they look. But with a woman, it's dead. Because with me, my career, you can always get me at the end of the program. Bring me in the ring. I'll take 2 or 3, 14 bumps for you. I'll bleed, rip my clothes off me, whatever you want. You can't do that to a woman. So there's no explosion. There's no blow-off. And a woman talks, and she may get up in somebody's face. There's only one woman I've ever known that got heat, and that was Leona Helmsley. And she was a 65-year-old bag, but she had heat. You get a beautiful girl out there with a good set of paws, you can't be mad at her. So we're backwards. Now, Cornette and I had discussed we're going to have maybe a wrestling clinic for managers down the road. Maybe too early this year. Maybe, I'm not sure if I want to do it in the summer or when, but we're going to sit down and talk about it. I think it would be great.
As you know from your experience here at Ring of Honor, we have managers, and we try to use managers in an active role. And why do you think, you mentioned the women, the divas, why do you think that it's forgotten about by a guy like McMahon who, grew up, that was managers with the heart, the heart and soul of as well as the NWA. What happened?
Well, maybe people's thinking changed. Maybe there's more magazines with the ladies in it. Everybody wants more skin. I'd rather see a beautiful woman than a real albino in a spandex T-back. It's up to you, but that's how I feel. But you're going to entertain you a lot more.
Yes.
With or without the T-back.
Okay, so as far as we got some questions regarding managing at ringside. You're in a match. You're doing a match. You're managing a guy. When is the right time to put attention on yourself as a manager, as opposed to the wrong time?
Well, you never put attention on yourself. You put it on us. So my man's in the ring. I'll take his jacket off. I'll open the ropes for him. Then I go back out and I stand in the corner. If the baby face is out maneuvering him, and he stops for a minute, I'll call him over, I'll tell the ref, hey, this and that. When there's a lull, is when the crouton goes to work. If he's getting heat and really pounding on the guy and doing something, the last thing I want to do is get up and distract what he's doing, because I can always distract. I managed a guy named Ravishing Rick Rude. He didn't like me, because he thought I tried to steal his heat. He wasn't smart enough to realize we had heat together. We're a team. The only time I got up is when someone had him in a hole or something. Then I got up and was yelling to the ref and turned to the people to give him time to rest. I would never do that while he was getting his heat, because he's getting our heat. He never understood. Some guys just think they don't need a manager. They're good enough just because they got a body and baby oil. That's not it. You have to know how to think in that ring. And I never, when they put a guy over the second rope or something, a lot of managers will grab the guy and hit him. I never did that.
But what is the right time to interfere?
I'll tell you. When they tell you to. At the finish. But if they put a guy over the second rope, I never grab the guy and hit him. You know what I do? I look around and put my hand in my pocket. People start coming up now. I would take a step towards the guy. I get a little close to my pocket. The people start coming. Just as I got there, I'd have my man turn the ref around. He would turn the ref, like he almost caught me. But if I hit the guy, I'm not beating the guy, right? Mm-hmm. But later on, the finish of the match, I may put on nuts and hit the guy and beat him. So if I hit the guy before, it's anticlimactic. It doesn't mean anything. So what you do is you entertain. I almost got him, but not yet.
Well, you touched on this next question, but maybe go into it a little more. Why is it crucial for the ref to never see the interference, as far as getting heat with the crowd?
Because all the heat goes on him and he don't draw money.
Okay.
You can't sell a ticket telling a ref. And when the ref lets you do
for the ref to never see the interference, as far as getting heat with the crowd.
Because all the heat goes on him and he don't draw money.
Okay.
You can't sell a ticket telling a ref. And when the ref lets you do things right in front of him, you've lost all your credibility, whatever we have. But if he was only got to do a couple things. He's got to be vicious, sneaky, and take bumps. That's all. And a babyface has to be humble and sell. And have a fiery comeback. The rest happens. But if you go out there and you do right things in front of the referee, they'll throw a guy on the floor, hit him with a chair and everything. We should be disqualified. But once you threw him on the floor and the referee, his manager jumped up on the other side, no one's looking, then you hit him with a chair and roll back in. And the guy goes up and hit me with a chair. So you hit him with a chair, he's going to say no. I'll say no. The people will say yes. You've got the people involved.
Right.
It's really easy.
What character is this? The question is, what characteristics should all managers have, or is that a valid question?
All managers should have the characteristics that they are better than anybody else. They're smarter when it comes to business. Don't wear sunglasses. Eyes tell so much. If you have sunglasses on, you're the Lone Ranger. No one knew who he was, but they knew who Tano is. So have your eyes. So when you do your interview, Ric Flair and Macho Man Savage have great eyes. And you can see that fire in them when they talk. And some guys just don't have it. But a manager has to be, Cornette's my favorite, because he dresses and looks like a sleazy guy that would rip somebody off.
Used car salesman stuff.
And I look like the kind of a guy that would be a movie producer, but with no film in the camera. Take all your clothes off. A little close-up, no close-up. Zoom it. No film. That's my character.
What would you say, we've touched on this, but what would you say the basic job of a manager is?
To be a crouton, to help your man. John Stead. John Stead was a wonderful man. You look at a piece of paper and you see Andre the Giant versus John Stead, my God, what a match. 175, one's 7 feet, one's 500, one's 340. It didn't work like that. Because John Stead wasn't capable of taking big bumps and big slams. Some guys just aren't. So they want to see a giant do giant things to you. So John couldn't take big slams and bumps. His body he didn't want to do it. He was scared of bumps. That's simple. So when you have a manager, you bring me in at the end, I take all the bumps for him. You have to pick up what your man don't have. Okay, well, and I love John Stead. But, I watched a match the other day with Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. Greatest match I've ever seen. Shawn Michaels stood on the second rope and dove onto the table. Stud would have never been able to get to the second rope or ever thought about going to the table. Neither would I. So some guys just can't do things like that. John was just a pounder. Boom, that's all he did. He would take bumps, but you didn't slam John, but you weren't going to backdrop him or throw him over the turnbuckle. He didn't do things like that. He was too big and he didn't want to do it.
What can you do to make yourself look like more like a star in your appearance? So it's an aspiring manager question.
One thing is don't show up in t-shirts and shower shoes and food all over the front of you. If you want people to think you're making money, look like you are. I remember when I was a kid in Indianapolis and I was carrying jackets, when the wrestlers would come in the building, I would carry their bags. I would look at their shoes to see if they were shiny or alligator. I want to see if they had jewelry. I want to see how their shirts and ties look. It said to me, these guys make money. But a guy can be dressed like a bum, you think he's a bum. Right.
What subtle things can you do to show confidence to the crowd as back to managing?
Show confidence to the crowd that my man's doing good?
But yeah, as a manager, you're standing there. You want to let these people know that you got it down tonight.
Well, what you do is when your man did something good, you look at him. So you and me. Come on. You make the people proud. They won't do it, but you let them know that you want them to. Then, whatever you tell a fan to do, they won't do. That's when I started. First time I went to a match was in 1954 at Marigold Arena in Chicago. I was hooked because it was a heel that came to the ring in Johnny Case. And Johnny yelled to the people, "Shut up!" And they got louder. I'm 10 years old. He put his hand over his ears. They got louder. I said, I could do this. I can annoy people. This is great. And that's what it was. If you tell the people, come on, cheer for me, they won't. Some, don't yell at me, they will. It's reverse psychology. It really works.
Well, what managers should upcoming wrestlers study, and what should they look for?
Me. If you brag him, you're lying. I'm not lying. I'm not bragging. I'm telling the truth. No manager has the credentials I have. I've been managing since 1965. And I've worked my way to the Ring of Honor. It may sound, well, it's not as big as the WWE. Let me tell you something. WWE wasn't big at one time either. It was NWA or AWA. This is going to be. This is where I started. In armies and high schools. This is where the sweat and everything comes, and people can smell the popcorn and smell the wrestlers. 20,000 seat building, $1,800 for a ticket, $2,500 for popcorn. That's fine. This is why actors go to theater. People say to me, Bobby Heenan, you were the manager for Andre in WrestleMania 3. 97,000 people. What are you doing working for this company? I love it. And it's where I started. And these are young, good people that are really busting their tails. And you're the one that's losing if you don't buy a ticket to see it. Because it's the best you ever see. And you won't be cheated.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Are there any other...
You paid me for it. You wrote it down for me. Yeah, I mean...
Let's talk about a couple of these other managers over the years, some of these so-called greats. Give me these comments on their style.
Sure.
Grand Wizard, Ernie Roth, the Grand Wizard of Wrestling.
A great friend of mine. But Ernie was bald.
Well, that's why he wore the turban.
Right, and he wore a wig. Okay. But if you gave Ernie bumps, he'd lose his hair. Ernie was very small.
Bump,
no, Ernie was a very small man. He was about 130 pounds. It wasn't like Rocca. He was a small man. And a great guy. I remember him when he managed Johnny Barron and Magnificent Maurice. He was Armstrong K, Mr. Clean. And he wore pink tights and a calypso shirt tied in a knot. His head was shaved and he had an earring. He don't look like your average lumberjack. But see, I don't like the gay look to people because I don't believe that's heat. That's disgust. I don't have any problem with gays, but people do, and they don't want to see a guy switch around. I don't think that's good for the business. I don't think it's good for gay people to act like that. It's just people exploit things like that. So that's how I feel about that.
Did you like his style as a manager?
Because he talked, he always had different clothes on. He was entertaining to watch, I thought. And he wasn't me. I wasn't him. I'm not Jimmy Hart. He wasn't Ernie. It all different. But that's what, if everybody was the same, it wouldn't be any good.
Let's talk about Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart was like a sales pitch man for NASCAR. He's got every name and anybody he's managed on his clothes. He's got a tongue in the back, Hulk Hogan here, Jimmy Hart glasses, this here, Hart Foundation here. But Jimmy, he wears sunglasses. Nobody can see what great eyes he has. And he jumps around a lot. And he has a real high-pitched voice. He doesn't look like he can hurt anybody. But he's a great manager because he'll promote you. And he'll push you like some managers do. He's like a Colonel Parker, Presley. Right. And that's Jimmy Hart. And I love Jimmy Hart.
Okay. Captain Lou Albano.
Captain Lou Albano. Captain Lou Albano was a wrestler. A good friend of mine. He's different, though. He has rubber bands in his face and on his beard, and he wears Hawaiian shirts, and that is Lou Albano. That's what makes him great. And he talks 100 miles an hour, and you people never understand the thing he says. But that's Lou Albano. And he was successful at what he did, so it must have worked. Lou couldn't dress like me with sequins in the suit, and I couldn't dress like Lou. So that's what makes it different. But if everybody was me, if everybody was Lou, it wouldn't work. And that's what's good about it, that there's so much diversity.
I don't know if he was still managing when you were involved in with WWF, but Freddie Blassie.
Yeah, but Freddie Blassie, you can't beat the hell out of him either. He's 118 years old. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, how's a manager going to get heat with gray hair? I bleached mine. Freddie wasn't that sharp. And Freddie would wear sequin pants. He looked like an old nickel. And I love Freddie. You touch on that geek. I said, you bleached mine. Freddie wasn't that sharp. And Freddie would wear sequin pants. He looked like an old nickel. And I love Freddie. You touch on that geek. I said, humanoid, ham and egg. Freddie was great. And he had a cane. That wasn't to hit somebody with, that was to keep him up. But Freddie couldn't take bumps. So when it came time to get your hands on Freddie, people lost it. He didn't get the money's worth. He couldn't do it. He was too old. 207.
I've mentioned most of the...
They embalmed him 13 times in L.A. once. No one knows that. Yeah. His wife pronounced him dead on the honeymoon, 4 hours. Go ahead.
No, keep going. These are most of the East Coast managers of that era. Some of the other managers you've come across from...
Gary Hart did nothing for me. Met him a couple times. Doesn't take bumps. You got to take bumps. Not because I do. You got to. If you get your hands on him, if you don't get your hands, they'll have to take bumps. Be Freddie. He would be 310. But some guys just aren't physically able to do it. When I first started managing, I wanted to do it different. I said, I'm going to manage like a wrestler and wrestle like a manager. So when I'm outside, I'm going to be the toughest guy you ever saw. When I'm inside, the chicken ass is going to run all over that ring. I'm going to have to be backpedal more than anybody and beg off and be a coward. But when I'm outside, I'm going to be the toughest guy you ever saw. And it just worked.
Okay, we have some questions here. You had a great career.
I did.
You did. Besides a manager, also as a lot of people remember you as a commentator. And what is the job of a good color commentator?
Monsoon taught me this. God bless you, my friend. Always watch the monitor. You know, I was happening in Las Vegas when I was with W, and Brian Pillman came and pulled my coat down behind my shoulders, and I got up and I said, "What the F?" And I'm on headset because I was watching the monitor, and I was watching two guys outside the ring fighting. It was a tag match, and I had a broken neck. And Pillman came around, and so I'm watching the monitor. And he pulled my coat down over my shoulders, and I thought some fan had jumped over the rail and was going to get me. So I jumped up, and I yelled, "What the F?" And then I saw it was Pillman. So I walked up the aisle, and I came back. But you got to watch that monitor, because if you're watching what's going on outside and you're calling it, first of all, I don't call it. If I call it, or say something and they're not shooting it, it doesn't make sense. Never step on the guy doing play-by-play. When you're a color commentator, you're a crouton again. When he's done with play-by-play, can you interject something? First of all, I don't think there should be any play-by-play guys. Play-by-play was started because of radio. You had to tell people because they couldn't see. Cubs against the White Sox. Cubs are out in blue tonight. They got their big red C's on their hats. The White Sox look strong. They got their pinstripes for the Sox. You got to tell everybody. Wrestling, he throws them in, a big clothesline, picks them up for a stunt. They can see that. Talk about the angle, the program coming up. They're not smart enough to do that. Tony Schiavone never was. Nobody was. They all should be color men. If you can see what they're doing, talk about their angle. And that's what I learned from Monsoon.
Did you ever suggest that over the years to these, to the powers that be?
Yeah.
And
well, we'll think about it.
It's interesting. Do you feel that it's okay to make jokes to get yourself over as a color commentator at the expense of the talent in the ring?
It depends how you make jokes about it. Like Tito Santana, I can't do it now because of the way things are with television. But I used to say, you know why there's only 128 Mexicans at the Alamo? They only had one car. And I asked Tito before I did Tito, I said, I'm going to get some Mexican jokes. But it's about you, not your race. Oh, that's okay, brother. He didn't care. I said, his dad lost everything in the stock market crash. A car ran over his dad's goat. But they all survived. They moved into his aunt's Pontiac. And he used to go around town every day. Him and I would go around town. I had my shoes shined. He had his sharpened. But you can't do that anymore. But he didn't mind that. But if you don't tell anybody, and you're talking about, give me a guy, give me anybody. Hogan.
Yeah.
He's making a big comeback, that old bald bastard. You don't say that. See, that's a negative. I've never seen him on fire like this.
Were there guys that were sensitive over the announcing? That said,
Some guys are. Some guys always say, don't knock this, don't say this about me, don't say this. Okay, whatever you want. There's other ways to do it.
What mistakes do you see today's color commentators make?
I really don't know because I don't watch that much.
Well, color commentators from your era.
From my era?
When you were announcing. What's the wrong thing to do?
Jesse was good with Vince. And you think the announce team they had at one time, they had Jesse and Vince, they had Monsoon and I in Oakland. It's pretty hard to beat that crew. I think the biggest mistake announcers make and color guys make is color guys want to call the action. And they start, look at this, he's doing this. You don't have to do that. Because people see that. You're just there to pick up the slack and entertain.
Is there any way that you can compensate for, a bad play-by-play guy?
Yeah. He can kill you pretty bad because you can do some great things in that ring. If you do one bad thing, he stays on that. Look what happened to the Cubs. Steve Stone and, what's the other kid's name? Kerry. They knocked the Cubs because they weren't doing good. They're both wrong. The Cubs couldn't take the criticism. Steve Stone's the best play-by-play guy in baseball. But they got rid of him because he made fun of it. He didn't make fun. He said something that was right. They should have done this and that. The management didn't like that. That's another thing you have to watch, too. Tells you stuff on.
Okay. Who do you consider the best play-by-play guy, and what can someone learn by listening to him?
Best play-by-play guy was Vince McMahon.
Really?
Yeah. Because he had enthusiasm. And you can see sitting next to him, he loved what he was doing. And he may have sounded hokey to you sometimes, but I'm talking about a guy dressed like a duck with a mask on. And his manager's an owl. So, that's our business. People ask me, is wrestling real? And they get mad. Well, in baseball, when's the last time you saw a masked man in the on-deck circle? Or, playing tonight for Shaquille O'Neal from parts unknown. It don't happen. It don't happen. We're a different kind of entertainment. We have to realize that. We're wrestling. And that's how it is.
What did you think of Gordon Soley?
Gordon Soley was excellent. Gordon Soley was like a mortician with a suit on that worked. Most morticians have a black suit. Gordon had coats on, but he was so serious about everything he did. And he didn't make, they always said a crimson mask, a Pier 6 brawl. I asked him once, don't they fight on Pier 7? what to say then. Oh, of course they do. Well, Gordon, super.
Who are the announcers? You spent a lot of time in the AWA. Who are the announcers back in that?
Roger Kent, Marty O'Neill. See the difference. Roger Kent did the play-by-play with no color guy. Marty O'Neill did the interviews. Then Marty got sick, and that's how Gene Oakland started. Before that, in Indianapolis, I did interviews with a guy named Chuck Marlowe, who worked for Bobby Knight at IU. He used to be Bobby Knight's personal announcer. And when they fired, when they got Real Sports at Channel 4 in Indianapolis, they were going to get rid of Chuck, and Bobby Knight said, you get rid of him, I'm done too. So they kept Chuck Marlowe. Then there was a guy named Sam Menaker, who I wrestled. He was in his 70s or 80s, God knows. Sam was in the movie Mighty Joe Young, and Sam was a magician. He didn't do anything. What an interesting man to talk to. He used to do all the interviews in Detroit, and the ring in Detroit, there was only like 3 feet off the ground. So Dick the Bruiser was a midget. He was like 5'8". So Sam would always have him stand in the ring when he talked to him, because if he stood in the ground, the announcer was bigger than him. And when Vince McMahon's about 6'2", Vince would take his shoes off, and his dad would make him slide his feet and be down a little more. You never want the announcer to look bigger than your talent. There's little tricks, reason you do things that people don't even know about. I don't know if it works or not, but we do them.
Bobby, what advice would you give to someone looking to break into the business?
Send me all your money and get a job. I would get an education. Get yourself a high school and college education. If you're not college oriented, get a trade. And then if you want to get into wrestling, try it. But you have something to fall back on, because there's no insurance. There's no pension. But you have something to fall back on, because there's no insurance. There's no pension. Nobody cares about you. When you break your leg or your arm or your back, they have to find a replacement. And let's say that replacement has longer blonde hair and a shinier robe. They're going to go with him. Because remember, most promoters are pimps. And we're all tricks. I'm Trixie. And when I'm sick on the corner and can't work anymore, there's another Trixie in the green dress they'll find. And it's just the way it is. It's done in Hollywood. It's done in politics. It's done in every form of life when there's money involved. And be careful and don't lose your green dress. That's what I'm telling you.
Well, when you're doing these different independent promotions, what mistakes do you see younger wrestlers make, in the locker room as far as etiquette, maybe compared to, or is etiquette better these days in the locker room?
Well, I don't pay that much attention in the locker room. I know I was in one in Minnesota, and there was some guy, I don't remember his name, they brought a big pitcher of water and cups. This guy can't pick a pitcher and take a drink out of it. So I looked at him, I said, are you going to drink again out of that? He said, yeah. So I took my pants down and sat on the top of the thing. I said, enjoy. I said, if you do the same thing to me, I don't know where your mouth has been either. That's not good etiquette.
Was there a proper etiquette when you broke into business?
Oh, yeah, you keep your eyes and ears open, your mouth shut. I went to somebody's bag one day, I needed some tape. And I opened up the guy's bag, and it was open. And I picked the tape up, and Bill Miller said, hey, is that your bag? I said, no. He said, what are you doing in it? That's what I said, I know the guy. He said, Gary, it's Argentina Rockets bag. He said, he tell you to go in it? I said, he wouldn't care. No, you never go in somebody's bag. What happens if his money's missing or something's missing? They only saw one guy go in it. So you just don't do things like that. Everybody has their own space, and you just give them that courtesy.
We've seen how the wrestlers come, they greet each other, polite handshake. Was it always that way?
Yeah. Nobody really cares about anybody.
Right.
It's a fraternity. But only if they're paying. I don't know. If you're in a fight in the bar and somebody gets picked on, all the boys will help you. But like I said, if you fall down and hit your leg, everybody goes to promote and say, I'll take his place. So it's just the way it is.
Is there really a right way that young wrestlers should treat veterans in the locker room?
I think you treat everybody with respect who's been in the business, or any business. Mm-hmm. If you're your first day on the job selling cars at Wesley Rockers Auto, you be nice to the guy who's been there the longest. First of all, dummy, He's the guy who's going to show you the ropes. Be smart. Always make your enemy your friend. Then you know where your enemy is. So simple.
What is the right way, a young wrestler comes to a show, there's a veteran there. What is the right way about, getting advice or tips from veterans?
Ask them. I've met people, I said, hey, Bobby Heenan. Nice to meet you. I said, who are you? Tell me your name. I told you my name. It's not that they're rude. They just weren't educated at home. So when you're done, go home and slap your mom and dad around. Because they need it. They didn't teach you right. You just come in and say, how do you do? My name is so-and-so. Thank you. And if you like what I did, say, I appreciate your work. If not, say, glad to meet you. That's all. Be polite and show courtesy, that's all. And if you want to know something, say, what do you think I did wrong? Could I ask you advice? I met a guy down in Texas back in the late 60s. We were riding in a car. And one of the boys told him, he said, do what you did wrong tonight. And he was a veteran. He was trying to be helpful. And the guy said, hey, I got a dad. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. The guy never made it. He never listened. This guy told him they were Dirty Dick Raines. He knew. The guy didn't want to listen. He didn't care. Dick Raines would forget it. The guy never made it.
Were there guys over the years that, veterans that were unapproachable, that really didn't really care to share any advice or...
Well, I never saw many guys go up and ask people for advice. Right. You'd make friends with a guy, and I wouldn't ask Lou Thez for advice. And Lou was a friend of mine, but my style, Lou couldn't tell me nothing to help me with my style. I'm not going down and get a toe hold on a guy. I'm going to wear a sequin suit and throw some powder in the face. And Lou didn't know a thing about that. So you hit and miss. You pick your spots.
Okay. What should a talent do if the booker asks him to do something that he doesn't want to do?
Just say, I'm not comfortable doing it, and I don't think for the betterment of our production here that I can pull this off right. Instead of saying, hey, I ain't doing that crap. There's a way to say something to people. So I will do it, but it won't be good for us. And if he insists, then you have to insist too that you can't do it. And you have to understand you might lose your job. But you feel that strong about it. That's your answer. That happened to me once.
Well, who have been the good bookers, that you worked for, and what made you enjoy working?
There are no good bookers. There are no. I'll tell you why there's no. You know what bookers are? Bookers are guys that want to kiss ass to the promoters, and the promoters use bookers because they don't want to bother. A promoter still does his main events. A booker does the opening matches. A promoter still writes the TV. Bookers are just... They're the head waitress at Waffle House. What does that mean? What does that mean? Red Bastien was a good booker in Dallas, but they don't pay bookers. Promoters aren't going to pay him. They give him $150 extra a week. To have 24 hours of guys calling and bitching and crying, I wouldn't do that. Right. I was offered to be the booker in Kansas City once. I said, how much you pay? They said, well, whatever you book yourself into. I don't want to do that. And there are no good bookers. There are none. First of all, every booker wants to be a promoter. And they don't have the money to buy something. So they're bookers.
Well, over the years...
and they have favorites.
That's what I was going to get on to, bad bookers.
Oh, yeah. George Scott was a bad booker.
Why?
Because he wouldn't fair. He would do favoritism for people. I was in the office for WWF. I was assistant booker to George. Not because I knew anything. Vince asked me if I wanted the job because I wanted to get out doing the small towns. So I spent a couple of days in the office. George Scott was jealous of me because he thought I wanted his job. I never wanted that job to begin with. All I wanted was to get out of the small towns. See, if I missed Scranton, Poughkeepsie, they still paid me for them, but I didn't have to leave. I was in Sanford. I got to be in the office. And I thought I could contribute. But George Scott said, answer the fan mail. The honest thing I want to do at my age is read a bunch of letters written in crayon from Bruno. Why don't they reach me? Now you want to do that. So he would tell me, call this guy. We need him. I call the guy. And George said, well, if he can't make it, he's done. Then I have to call guys that were favorites of his. And I said, George needs you. I can't do it. I said, George, the guy can't make it. He's okay. he wasn't fair to people. And that's why I just don't like the man. I tell him right to his face, I don't like you. So,
Well, you mentioned promoters, so what makes a good or a bad promoter?
a good promoter is the one that'll pay you and treat you fairly. A bad promoter will lie to you. It's that simple. You don't want to be lied to? Work for him. If you want the truth, fine. I was in towns one time in Tennessee. The building was packed. I told him, I said, hey, it's good tonight. He said, well, that section there is the veterans. We gave it all away. And most people are wearing coats. It's winter time. So there's a bunch of fat people here. What's the answer they give you? I worked for a promoter, Dick the Bruiser, that would tell you that the house was 10 grand. It was really 8. And he'd pay you on 6. And it's just the way it was. And you lost respect for him, so you didn't go out and work your butt off for him. Because you knew what you were going to get.
Right.
So you're in the end.
We're going down to the end here. A couple last questions.
Sure.
Explain having chemistry with someone and give some examples of guys you had chemistry with and guys that you didn't have chemistry with.
Rick Rude I didn't have chemistry with because he thought I was trying to steal his heat. He didn't understand the role as a manager. First of all, the role as a manager makes me sick. When people say to me, the boys would say, are you working tonight or managing? It's the same thing, stupid. I just play a different role than you. You're an actor like me. You're a wrestler, and I'm a manager because you wanted to go to the gym all day long and eat raw eggs and get your body real big. I wanted to go with the Sheboygan sisters. So you do what you want, I'll do what I want. We do the same thing.
Well, how do you make that work when you're with a guy that,
Well, most guys should know that. The other guys I was with were so glad to have me. I was so glad. Andre asked for me. Of all the managers in this business has ever been, I was the only one that ever managed him. The other guys I was with were so glad to have me. I was so glad. Andre asked for me. Of all the managers in this business has ever been, I was the only one that ever managed him. He asked for me. And that was an honor for me. And then some guys, they thought I was a valet. They would take my job. I don't mind taking that job up. They would. I didn't want to pat them with the powder puff. I didn't do that stuff. I wanted to be sneaky. That's just how I survived. But you know the guys. When I first managed John Studd, I knew John Studd before I managed him. He was wrestling in Indianapolis under the name Chuck O'Connor. You know how you get the name Studd? He was driving through New York, and there was an X-rated movie, and it said, guy's name, something Studd, with 2 D's. And John liked that. And it really is a heck of a name. Simple. John Studd with 2 D's. Another great name. Johnny Valentine. Buddy Rogers. Those are great names. And Vince asked me, I was supposed to manage Jesse Ventura. First time I went to the WWF. And Jesse had some circulation problem with his legs. And a blood clot. And Vince said, he ain't going to be here. He isn't going to be here. Do you have any problem with Jesse? I said, no. I said, him and I ate a day together. Would you manage him? I said, of course. And then Jesse got sick. Then when I was at Garden, I'm getting ahead of myself. He said, would you manage Studd? I said, of course. You know John? I said, yeah. So that's how it was. John and I were friends from before, and I'm not the kind of a manager that's going to go out there and try to get myself over. I'll get myself over eventually, and I'll get us all over with talk and everything and sneakiness. But the first time out there, I'm not going to steal the show. I'm going to be with John.
You mentioned Andre the Giant. Give us a good Andre. I mean, I've heard stories from other guys.
We were on the plane one day, and he just liked to drink in the morning. He had maybe 4, 6, 7, 8 triples
In the morning?
Yeah, 6, 7. So he got on the plane one day, and he's trying to, him and I are sitting in first class, and he's trying to get the armrest up, just so he can get a little more room. So he's pulling out, so a stewardess comes up, she said, well, can I get you anything? Andre says, screwdriver. About 10 minutes later, she comes up and hands him a screwdriver, a Black & Decker screwdriver. Andre turns to her and he says, what would you have brought me if I was said Bloody Mary? I said, ma'am, may I talk to you for a minute? So I take her into the cabin. This is a little thing. It's probably going to help your aviation life. But when a guy gets on the plane in the morning, he's got hair out to here. He's 7'5", he weighs 500 pounds, and he's tanked. Don't bring him tools. If you wanted a buzzsaw, a jackhammer, on an airplane? But that's how Andre was. He didn't care. He said every day was just another day.
I would assume he would have to fly in first class.
Oh, yeah. We were on a small plane one day, one of those commuters. We're going from Chicago to Sioux Falls. And I was at the gate first to make sure that Andre has a seat. I said, has that plane been weighed? So they weigh him with the fuel and everything, and they have manifested passengers. But the other day, I was at WrestleMania, and I left Burbank. It was a full flight, but we couldn't take off out of Burbank. The runways are too short. So they had to put half fuel in and fly 12 minutes to Ontario. And roll up there, and then go to Dallas, and then I went to Tampa. So I went to the plane, and I said, have you weighed and measured this? They said, well, yeah. I said, well, I have a mannequin, Mr. His name is Rusmanov, Andre Rusmanov, and he weighs 550 pounds. And I said, yeah, nobody weighs that. Stick around, sweetheart. I was thinking, he came around the corner and never stopped. So everybody came out. I said, what are we going to do? Tear out some seats? Lose some fuel? I don't know. They said, well, we can do it, but we didn't know he was that big.
What did you do?
But he got on the plane, barely, bent all the seats back, and sat in two of them with his feet out in the aisle, and his seats all the way leaned back. It was only a half-hour flight, but he didn't fit.
He must have gone through this with cars and transportation all the time.
His feet never fit in the bed. In Japan, everything's real small. They don't have showers in their tubs. He didn't sit in a tub. So,
Well, we covered a lot of ground. Bobby, thank you very much.
oh, thank you. I'm glad I could do this. And watch this, everybody. This is going to be it. Doesn't mean Robert of Heen, it means Ring of Honor.
Thank you.
Can you pay for this?